Pokemon, medicine and martial arts. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 326 Labor Compensation. However, the man at that moment seemed out of place. He sat alone in a corner, cross-legged, each holding a glow stick, one you had given him at your previous job, and waved it around, looking like a rather naive young man. He seemed captivated by the fashion show on stage, and even then, he hadn't reacted, his gaze fixed on the stage, his teeth occasionally flashing. As if sensing something, he suddenly stopped waving his glow sticks and glanced around with a puzzled look. A hint of confusion crossed his face. What had just happened? So noisy for a moment, and then quiet. Just then, the spotlight beam fell right on the man, instantly making him the center of attention. Even Ma Xiu, now a little out of place, was slightly impressed. This was because a lucky audience member was chosen. Among hundreds of people, the chance of winning was 1 in 100. It couldn't be any smaller, and the lucky number for those chosen was undoubtedly quite high. Hey, who's that guy? So lucky. He gets to compete on the same stage with Master Maxiu in person. I envy him so much. He's not that handsome. How could he be so lucky? Are you kidding me? The odds are so low. He was chosen. If he bought a lottery ticket, wouldn't he be lucky? Putting aside the chatter of the people around him, the man was still completely bewildered. What was going on? What was going on? Wasn't he just distracted for a moment? How did he become the center of attention? Although it wasn't his first time, he felt a bit embarrassed by so many young girls staring at him. The man calmly scratched his head. Although he still didn't understand what was going on, it was clear he had seen a lot of things. He had the aura of someone who remained calm despite the collapse of a mountain. Looks like our lucky audience has come out, Maxiu chuckled, looking in the direction of the floodlights and making an inviting gesture. Oh. Interesting. Are we going to have a Pokemon battle? The man, now aware of the surrounding discussions, saw Maxiu's face light up with amusement. His lips curled up, and he lowered his crossed legs to the ground, stood up, and twisted his body, surprisingly performing a warm-up exercise without paying attention to the others. Oh. It seems this gentleman is also eager to battle with me, Maxiu said, stirring the atmosphere. Looking at the man still twisting his wrist and doing warm-up exercises, Ma Xiu said, almost jokingly, but also somewhat questioningly, although you look belligerent, sir. I wonder if you have any Pokemon with you? After all, those little cuties are the stars. I can't possibly let you engage in hand-to-hand combat with my Pokemon, sir. How the man laughed heartily as he warmed up, as if to dispel the chill within himself, responding to Ma Xiu's words. It's not impossible to personally fight Pokemon. But I prefer to watch the flesh and blood combat of Pokemon. The man's words were filled with boldness and a uniquely masculine aura. Some of the girls on the stage couldn't help but glance sideways, their eyes twinkling. Even Serena and the other two couldn't help but look at him, for they felt the man below them looked too much like you. If it weren't for the spotlight, which made it easier to see, and the fact that their height and build didn't match, they would have mistaken it for you. After all, that battle-crazed tone was unforgettable. Due to their seating arrangements on stage, Xiaozhi stood closer to the front, while Ma Xiu, the true star of the night, took center stage. However, because she was inviting a lucky audience member to come up and battle Pokemon with her, she took a few steps forward, still some distance from Xiaozhi and the audience. Xiaozhi was also drawn in by the man's words, squinting her eyes as she studied the man in the audience. Why does this feel so familiar? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before, Xiaozhi murmured softly, perhaps because she was standing so close and couldn't see clearly. The man gave Xiaozhi a very strange feeling. He let out a deep breath and paused his warm-up exercises. Looks like this gentleman has finished warming up. Let's get started quickly, don't keep the audience waiting, Ma Xiu said. She had taken advantage of the man's warm-up moment to have the models, who had originally had their designated positions, move to the sides, leaving the center of the stage as a battle arena. Because the stage for this fashion show was convex from above, After the models had moved to the sides, the empty space in the center was barely big enough to serve as a battle arena. Although the wooden stage panels weren't as sturdy as a battle arena floor. "Okay, here I come," the man shouted. He then abandoned the stairs, slightly bending his legs downward, performing a standing long jump. Then, with a powerful push of his feet against the floor, he launched himself upward like a spring. Amidst the crowd's exclamations, and with the spotlights as his backdrop, the man looked like a mighty eagle spreading its wings. On the stage, a black dot, originally the size of a sesame seed, gradually grew larger. Bang! A crisp sound was heard, and the man landed safely. However, just as he lifted his legs and stretched them out to stand parallel to each other, another crisp sound was heard. Crack! The wooden boards originally used to build the stage were now spreading rapidly in all directions like a spider web. Ouch! Where are my inferior products? The man said this subconsciously. But he quickly reacted. Although he had an embarrassed look on his face, he was very good at boosting the atmosphere. The man's slightly nervous voice sounded, "No, Miss Maxiu, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't expect this to happen. I won't have to pay for this, will I?" Afraid that Maxiu would immediately agree and ask him to pay, the man hurriedly continued, even waving his hands in panic. "Haha, Miss Maxiu, I don't look like a rich man. How about I compensate you for my labor?" Chapter 327, The Four Heavenly Kings of Kanto. "It's okay. I'm just a little surprised you're so skilled." Seeing the man's sudden, slightly annoyed expression, Ma Xiu pursed her lips and waved her hand graciously, unfazed. "Are you kidding? Forget the monthly league subsidy from being a gym trainer. Just the title of renowned fashion designer alone has already brought him countless fortunes. And then there's the occasional side income. So, for a wealthy and beautiful woman like Ma Xiu, this little bit of money really isn't much? By the way, I don't know your name, sir," Ma Xiu asked politely, not rushing to send out a Pokémon. "Oh. My name," the man rubbed his head, looking a little confused, but then smiled. Under the gazes of Ma Xiu and the other pretty girls, his cheeks actually blushed slightly. "Hello everyone, my name is Shiba." The man, Shiba, spoke loudly, a voice so loud that many people heard his name. After hearing the name, the sense of familiarity became even stronger. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, and regardless of the surprised looks of Serena and the other two girls, she murmured in a low voice, "Shiba, his name is Shiba? No wonder I always feel so familiar. Isn't this Shiba one of the four heavenly kings of the Pokémon League in the Kanto region, the fighting-type king?" According to rumors, Shiba is not only a top trainer who is good at using fighting-type Pokémon. He also has a strength that can rival his super strength. It seems that even in close combat, super strength is not his opponent. He defeated Pokémon with his human body, and he is famous for being a fighting-type Pokémon, Xiaozhi muttered to herself, telling everything she knew about Shiba, as if she was talking to herself, and as if she was talking to the girls next to her. "What? Little Jur, you said that uncle is the king of Shiba," Serena exclaimed, but then quickly covered her mouth, afraid to be overheard, and asked in a low voice. It was no wonder Serena was so surprised. During their travels, Yu had often told them stories about Shiba, even saying that they had been good friends before he set out on his journey. So, after learning about Shiba's century, and looking at the cracked wood beneath Shiba's bare feet, Serena couldn't help but swallow. He was known as the first man in Japanese history to dare close combat with a Pokémon, and a fighting-type Pokémon at that. Yes, I thought he looked familiar before, but after he introduced himself, I'm completely sure. Although we're not from the same region, we gym trainers are familiar with other regions' champions, kings, and gym trainers. Little Jur nodded, her expression slightly solemn. She hadn't expected a random selection to land such a big fish as the king of Shiba. You know, becoming the official champion of a region is no simple feat. It practically represents the pinnacle of a region's power. The Kanto region's Pokémon League is particularly unique. There's no champion in the Kanto region, just 4 champions. Each regional league officially has a champion and 4 champions. The Kanto region is truly remarkable. Let's first discuss the 4 kings of the Kanto League: Dragon-type King Watari, Ghost-type King Kakuko, Ice-type King Kona, and Fighting King Hiba. The reason for this situation is that these 4 kings are severely antagonistic to each other. Watari's strongest Dragonite, Flying, is quadruple countered by Ice types, even though Kona is stronger than Watari. Kona's ice type is countered by Hiba's fighting type. Hiba's fighting type is completely ineffective against Ghost, and Kakuko's Jengar can't defeat Wateri's Dragonite. Ultimately, none of the four could defeat the three champions of Kanto. In the end, the stalemate remained. Ah! Doesn't that mean Miss Maxio is in trouble? I'd better go and warn her, the kind-hearted Xiaoxu exclaimed after hearing Xiaojure's whisper. She was about to raise her leg to tell Maxio. But before she could take a step, Xiaojure grabbed her. Xiaoxu looked at her in confusion. Xiaojure, what are you doing? Forget it, let them fight. Judging from Maxio's expression, she certainly won't underestimate the enemy. Besides, for gym trainers like us, the opportunity to fight a champion-level trainer like this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Xiaojure chuckled, glancing at her best friend's face. She knew that although Maxio didn't immediately recognize Shiba's identity, perhaps due to the distance between the two areas, she could sense the aura he emanated. It wasn't a belligerence, but rather a kind of excitement and instinct that came from being able to fight someone more powerful than herself. It's safe to say that Xiaojure and Maxiu are truly close friends. Maxiu's thoughts were exactly as Xiaojure had described. Truly, even as a gym trainer, the power of the Fighting King, Shiba, was simply too overwhelming. Though she still wore a comforting smile, a solemn expression etched itself in her features, her brow furrowed as she contemplated which Pokémon to send out. Despite Shiba's muscular appearance, to be a league champion required both emotional intelligence and intelligence. Seeing Maxiu's hesitation, Shiba, understanding her concerns, couldn't help but chuckle. Haha, Miss Maxiu seems to wish to hand over the first attack to me, so I'll be happy to accept, Mr. Shiba, please. Miss Maxiu's frown gradually relaxed, and she took advantage of the situation to take over Shiba's words. Then I'll take charge without hesitation. Shiba nodded, a bright smile on his face, exuding a fierce aura of battle even as he stood there. You have to know that the Fighting-type king is no mere talk, his bellicosity is no less than Yiu's. Come out and fight. Lilu with a flash of red light from the Pokeball, a black and blue Pokémon, somewhat resembling a standing puppy, appeared on the stage. Chapter 328 Fairy Elf vs. Lilu. This is my newest Pokémon, Lilu. I'll send it out to battle Miss Maxio's Pokémon, Shiba introduced politely. However, his polite demeanor, coupled with his muscular build, gave off a strange vibe. Is this the Pokémon you captured first? Maxio gazed at the Lilu that Shiba had sent out, her heart racing. Who on earth was this person? How could a newly captured Pokémon possess such power? It looked like it might even possess the strength of a near king. This Lilu looked much smaller than a typical Lilu, but its taut muscles radiated a sense of strength. Its presence alone could make even timid Pokémon cower in fear. This is truly a formidable foe. I guess I'll have to give it my all, Maxio thought silently. Even at this thought, Maxio's smile remained, and she didn't even take out her Pokeball. Instead, she called out to Little Jure, Little Jure, please come and help me. Little Jure understood and gracefully approached Maxio's side. After all, for tonight's fashion show, while Maxio hadn't dressed up all of her Pokémon, she had brought some with her. She figured the audience members drawn tonight wouldn't be particularly strong, so she'd just have to bring their usual gym-challenging strength. With this in mind, Maxio dressed up her stronger Pokémon to complement the fashion show. She kept the weaker ones for tonight's battle. However, no one anticipated the sudden appearance of Shiba. This had a profound impact on Maxio's morale, forcing her to change her mind and send out her stronger Pokémon. However, her stronger Pokémon were already dressed in their beautiful, adorable costumes and standing on the stage. Plus, these costumes worn by Pokémon are rather troublesome to put on, which is why Maxiu called Xiaojure, wanting her to help take off the Pokémon's clothes. It seemed that she felt that helping Pokémon take off their costumes was a bit of a waste of time. Before Xiaojure arrived, Maxiu looked at Shiba inquiringly. Mr. Shiba, the challenge is conducted according to the rules of the gym challenge. But as you can see, it's a bit troublesome. So how about a one-on-one battle? Shiba was stunned, scratched his hair, and waved his hand nonchalantly. No problem. Anyway, I don't need to participate in gym tournaments to collect gym badges. But if possible, I would very much like to have a gym tournament rule battle with Miss Maxiu. Thank you for your understanding. Maxiu bowed slightly and politely, appearing very elegant and intellectual. During their conversation, Xiaoju approached my Xiu and asked, "My Xiu, which Pokemon are you planning to send?" "You know, the opponent is a bit tough. I'm going to send Fen Xiang," my Xiu said without hesitation. "Are you sure? They're a formidable opponent." Xiaoju was a little surprised that my Xiu would send Fen Xiang. It wasn't that Fen Xiang was extremely powerful, but rather that she was only at the Quasi-King level. This, my Xiu hesitated. Seeing her best friend's expression, Xiaoju couldn't bear it anymore and sighed helplessly. Xiaoju then shared her speculations with Xiaoju. "I didn't want to say it, but seeing how you're acting, I still have to remind you. Judging from the other party's name and the aura they displayed, they're none other than the Fighting King, Siva, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Kanto region." Seeing her best friend's stunned expression, Xiaoju spoke earnestly. "So I'm reminding you to send out stronger Pokemon. While you may not win, you won't lose too badly either. And you know the situation in the Kanto region." Xiaoju even tried to temper her remarks a bit. However, my Xiu, at this moment, chose to ignore the joking tone in Xiaoju's words. Her expression was solemn. She had initially thought the other party was very strong, but she hadn't expected them to be so much stronger. Her luck was truly incredible. She had chosen any lucky spectator, and now she had become the lucky one, having the enviable opportunity to share the stage with a champion. My Xiu smiled wryly and shook her head, then began to think about her Pokemon. Things had come to this point, and she wasn't going to give up or show any fear before the battle. Although she was a fashion designer, she was also a Pokemon trainer, and even more so a gym trainer. She wouldn't back down so easily when faced with difficulties. "I've decided. Let's choose the fairy elf." My Xiu smiled at Xiaoju. Xiaoju nodded and agreed. The conversation between the two seemed to last a long time, but in fact it was less than 30 seconds. My Xiu waved to call the fairy elf who was also standing on the stage, and then she and Xiaoju carefully removed the fairy elf's clothes. This is not to say that the fairy elf cannot fight in clothes, but it is because wearing those clothes is too much of an obstacle. This is why many female trainers think those fashionable and cute clothes are beautiful, but they will not let their Pokemon wear them in battle. It is because it becomes a burden, inconvenient, and even hinders the battle. Time passed by minute. With the joint efforts of Xiaoju and my Xiu, they finally removed the equipment from the fairy elf, which also announced that the battle between Riolu and the fairy elf was about to begin. After Xiaoju walked back to the crowd, the fairy elf came to the center of the so-called battlefield. After it was settled, it called out to my Xiu a few times, indicating that it was ready and could start at any time. "Mr. Ziba, you can start. Please start as the first attacker." My Xiu bowed slightly. Her manners were graceful, like a lady from a famous family. Ziba nodded, but it was not as cumbersome as my Xiu, but he clenched his right fist and swung it forward suddenly. The whistling sound of the wind seemed extremely imposing. "Let's go. Riolu will use a flying knee strike." Chapter 329 Magic Sparkle. Oh, so the first move was the flying knee strike? It seems Shiba has incredible confidence in her Pokemon, Mashio couldn't help but exclaim. The flying knee strike, as the name suggests, involves leaping and attacking the opponent with the knee joint. It's a powerful fighting type move. However, it also has a significant flaw. If the flying knee strike hits the opponent, it's fine. If it misses, the momentum of the attack prevents the opponent from adjusting and stopping in time, causing the attack to hit the floor or something else. This can cause a knee injury, which can restrict the Pokemon's movement for a period of time. It's a bit of a double-edged sword attack, and ordinary trainers wouldn't use it unless they were sure of a hit. But who is Shiba? One of the 4 heavenly kings of the Kanto region, the fighting-type king. He has unwavering confidence in his Pokemon. Fairy Elf, get out of the way. Then use Fairy Wind. Faced with a powerful flying knee strike, Mashio conservatively chose to dodge. But the next moment, she cried out in surprise, a look of uncertainty on her face. Fast. Too fast. Riolu, after performing a flying knee strike, was simply too fast. He took a running start and leaped, bending his right knee, and slammed into the Fairy Spirit. No. They're too fast. It's too late. Fairy Spirit, use Sand Throw, my Xiu ordered. However, she forgot that this was on the stage, where there was no sand to use Sand Throw. While some Pokemon abilities are truly amazing, Water Cannon, Flame Jet, 100,000 volts. They can be activated by the energy stored within the Pokémon, just like the internal energy of a warrior like you. Some abilities require the aid of a field. Take the sand throw skill, for example. If it were used on a normal battlefield, even if the field was pristine, there would still be dust clinging to it. The Pokémon could then perform this move naturally, rather than simply conjuring it out of thin air. After the fairy elf used sand throw, it repeatedly tried to stir up dust from the wooden planks, but ultimately failed to do so. Oh no, Maxiu realized her mistake, but it was too late to command the fairy elf to dodge or block. Still perplexed as to why her sand throw skill hadn't worked, the fairy elf looked up to see Rylu's knee grow larger before its eyes. Then, before the fairy elf's horrified gaze, the flying knee struck it squarely. The fairy elf felt a sharp pain, then felt itself flung backward, landing on the wooden planks behind it. The silk ribbons that had been fluttering around it limply to the ground with its master. Rylu, on the other hand, was sent flying backward by the fairy elf's flying knee, spinning in midair. He landed safely and quickly assumed his attack stance once more. It seems Mr. Shiba's Rylu is truly formidable. Even a celestial Pokémon, already a king, can't quite hold up. Masu's eyes twinkled as she watched the Pokémon, who had regained his feet by supporting herself on the plank. Haha, no. Miss Masu was just careless, Shiba laughed heartily, waving a hand with a look of modesty. Then, his expression straightened again, and he grinned at Masu. Miss Masu, be careful. Rylu and I are about to take on you again, come on. The Pokémon and I won't be underestimated either. Rylu, use Lightning Bolt. Philadelphia, we'll use Lightning Bolt too. Bang, dang, like two arrows, the two Pokémon flew towards each other, their speed leaving two afterimages. The collision gave the impression of two beams of light moving horizontally toward the center, eventually growing larger. The next moment, the fairy elf flew backwards unhindered, Rylu still poised to strike. Hiss. Rylu's power is truly formidable. The fighting king can't even fight a fighting king. I was unwise again, Masu gasped. It seems we can only win by ourselves, not by force. Unexpectedly, even a fairy elf of king caliber would be overpowered by Rylu, a mere quasi-king. Miss Masu, thank you for your concession. A smile crossed Shiba's lips. Haha, Mr. Shiba, don't get too cocky. The battle has only just begun. Though her heart was swirling, Masu remained composed. Yes. The battle has only just begun. Let's continue. Rylu, use close combat. Fairy elf, use high-speed stars. Before Rylu could even get close, the fairy elf shouted, sending a volley of rapidly spinning stars hurtling towards Rylu, determined to halt his advance. Facing the oncoming high-speed stars, Rylu's face remained unfazed, a gleam of brilliance in his eyes. Then, his feet continued to attack, his clenched fists dancing like butterflies. Facing the spinning high-speed stars, Rylu felt as if he were back in the days of Shiba's special training. The spinning stars, in Rylu's eyes, became like boulders hurtling towards him. Rylu was undaunted, swinging his fists at the high-speed stars that, in his eyes, were like stones. Under Rylu's fists, they shattered into tiny specks of starlight that dissipated into the air without a trace of a ripple. While the high-speed stars had no effect on Rylu, they did act as a hindrance. Rylu's pace slowed. Seeing this opportunity, Masu refused to let it slip. She issued another command, Fairy Elf, use Magic Flash. Due to the delay caused by the high-speed stars, Rylu was momentarily unable to withdraw from the Magic Flash. The blazing light illuminated the entire area. Though fleeting, its power was undeniable. The blinding glare hurt Rylu, causing him to instinctively close his eyes, a look of pain on his face. Seeing the skill successfully land, Masu is overjoyed, her lips curling up involuntarily. Chapter 330 Yi. Rylu, are you alright? Shiba asked with concern, her face devoid of any panic. Although Rylu had momentarily panicked after being struck by the magical flash, he quickly regained his composure, the pain on his face gradually easing. After hearing Shiba's question, he appeared remarkably calm, calling out in a low voice. Rylu, good opportunity. Fairy Elf, use Lightning Flash. Without giving the opponent time to react, Masu ordered, intent on pressing the advantage. The Fairy Elf shouted, taking advantage of Rylu's brief moment of blindness from the magical flash to unleash Lightning Flash and charge at him. Caught off guard, Rylu stumbled from the Fairy Elf's Lightning Flash, but with his agility, He quickly regained his balance. But the fairy spirit wasn't about to give up. Turning around, it unleashed a lightning fast, unleashing its ultimate attack, like a darting arrow, aiming straight at Railu. Rio the fairy spirit attacked relentlessly, and even Railu, despite his strength, let out a few muffled screams. This, in turn, made Railu grow increasingly impatient. Though still unable to see, his brow furrowed, and his fists clenched, he looked furious. Siba, sensing a sense of foreboding, shouted, "Railu, calm down." Siba's shout pierced Railu's mind, resonating instantly within it, gradually calming his already agitated state. However, Railu, now suffering from numerous wounds and a slight loss of strength from the fairy spirit's continuous attacks, was also suffering from the fairy spirit's continuous attacks. Railu, don't let them lead you by the nose. Calm down. Even if you can't see right now, your heart can certainly see. Calm down and listen carefully to their voice. The battle-hardened fighting king, Shiba, quickly devised a response. Railu with a low growl, Railu nodded his head, forcing his entire body to calm down and exhaling deeply. Looking at Railu standing there, his expression unconcerned and calm, Mashiu silently sensed a sense of foreboding. Then, she gave the command, "Fairy elf, use charming voice." Immediately, a unique, ethereal voice emanated from the fairy elf's mouth. Like waves, it continuously surged towards Railu. The sudden, alluring voice instantly overwhelmed Railu, who had just calmed down. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. Her fists, once clenched, unconsciously loosened to cover her ears, as if that would alleviate the pain. This fairy-type skill is truly difficult. But this is also the fun. If it's resolved too soon, I'd be truly disappointed. Shiba raised an eyebrow, a smile still visible despite her distressed expression. Railu, use piercing sound, Railu growled in response. Then, still covering her ears with her hands, she opened her mouth, and a piercing, sharp sound emanated from it. The eardrum-sore noise and the enchanting, ethereal sound intertwined in a unique atmosphere. One was pleasant, the other harsh, a blend of two sounds, an invisible clash in the air. I didn't expect there was such a move. Fairy elf, use high-speed star. Seeing that the enchanting squeak had no effect, Maxiu immediately changed her order. Railu, calm down and listen carefully, Shiba instructed. Fairy, the fairy elf cried out, accompanied by a melodious sound as a stream of rapidly spinning stars flew out, striking Railu once again. However, facing the high-speed stars once again, temporarily blinded by their sight, Railu showed no signs of panic. His demeanor was remarkably relaxed. The spinning stars rustled against the air, creating a gentle, tinny sound, like Kune piercing the air. Fortunately, Railu had previously trained with his master, trainer Shiba, on sound detection. Facing the high-speed stars once again, Railu's movements were incredibly agile, his dodging and evading movements seamlessly, without a single drag. As a result, the high-speed stars barely touched Railu's hair. Well done, Railu. It seems the special training is working. We'll double down next time. Railu, initially somewhat cheerful, felt his cheerful mood sour upon hearing Bezel's words, and his ears drooped. What should I say? You're truly a fighting-type king. One move after another, Maxiu chuckled softly, covering her mouth. Shiba wasn't surprised. After all, although they weren't part of the same alliance, the members of the other regional alliances knew each other somewhat. Maxiu was also a gym trainer, after all. After she announced her name, even the initial uncertainty should have turned into certainty. However, Shiba didn't realize that Maxiu hadn't recognized him. If it weren't for Xianjuer's reminder, Maxiu would have simply treated him as a somewhat familiar stranger. Haha, Miss Maxiu is amazing. You can actually force Railu into such a state of panic. No way. In the end, Railu will still dominate. As the two sides exchanged commercial praise, a slightly breathless boy in period costume suddenly appeared in the crowd below the stage, with a Pikachu perched on his shoulder. Ah, great. Looks like it's not over yet. We haven't had our fun yet, the boy exclaimed happily. The person who came was you, who rushed here in a hurry after finishing the double battle match. In order not to miss the fashion show, Yu ran very fast all the way, with sparks and lightning all the way. Pikachu standing on Yu's shoulder was also very happy, and then seemed to have discovered something. While pointing to the stage with his little hand, he stretched out his little hand and kept pulling Yu's hair. Ouch, it hurts. Pikachu, what are you doing? Why are you pulling my hair? Yu glared at Pikachu, who was making trouble on his shoulder. He had consumed a lot of internal energy during this fast run. Pika Pika. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Fairy System. Pikachu seeing that Yu ignored him after adjusting himself slightly, and instead stood on tiptoe and looked up at the stage, as if looking for someone, Pikachu couldn't help but get even more anxious, and quickly retracted the little hand that was pointing at him. With both hands, he supported Yu's cheek and pushed his entire head in the direction he had pointed. Oh, I say Pikachu, what on earth are you doing? Because one of his cheeks was pushed by Pikachu, Yu's words were a little unclear. However, his eyes kept moving along with the movement of his head. Huh? I didn't notice it just now. Now that I look carefully, why is there a Pokemon battle going on up there? Yu exclaimed. He was immediately attracted by the Pokemon battle between the two sides on the stage. Wow! That person up there is Miss Maxiu. Then who are you fighting against her? Both of you are so formidable. Look at the Pokemon on both sides, they're both incredibly powerful. The weakest one is near elite level. Especially judging by the situation, Miss Maxiu is actually showing signs of dominating her opponent, Yu thought to himself with some surprise. As expected, the depth of each gym's strength cannot be underestimated. Elite-level fairy Pokemon. If we were to hold a gym challenge, even if I sent out Suicune and Pikachu, it would be a tough fight, with victory potentially hanging in the balance. Yu thought with some annoyance. He was the type who tended to imagine the worst possible outcome, and then if he emerged victorious, the feeling of victory would be even greater. Of course, because of this, he always planned ahead, leaving himself a way out to avoid total defeat. Therefore, after watching the battle between fairy Pokemon and Riolu, Yu carefully observed the battle between the two sides, fearing he might miss anything. He also tried to put himself in their shoes, thinking from their perspective. He also kept thinking about his strategy for challenging the aromatherapy gym. Huh? Yu exclaimed in surprise. I didn't notice it before, but now I look closely. Why does that man look so familiar? Just as Yu arrived and noticed Shiba's familiarity, the battle on the stage took a new turn. Riolu's eyes had regained their sight due to the passage of time. This excited Shiba even more. He executed a fighting stance and commanded Riolu, Riolu, use Rock Smash, Fairy Elf, use Magic Flash. Maxiu waved her sleeves with extraordinary grace. Suddenly, before Riolu could even get close, a burst of multicolored light emanated, rapidly illuminating Riolu. Oh no! Riolu, close your eyes, Shiba hurriedly ordered, not expecting Maxiu to use an old tactic. Too late. The fairy elf used Lightning Flash. Really? Riolu used Lightning Flash too. Suddenly, the fairy elf's petite figure darted out, charging towards Riolu. Riolu growled, and his figure nimbly leaped out, surprisingly unaffected by the magic flash. How is it possible? Seeing Riolu charging just as fast, Maxiu was startled, but her brows quickly fixed on the wooden board behind Riolu. A hole had appeared there, and through the red carpet that had been laid on the board, one could see directly into the crisscrossing pattern of large and small wooden sticks below the stage. As Riolu's figure charged forward, wood chips flew everywhere behind him, giving some in the audience a sense of dominance. I see. Riolu is truly amazing. He uses the shattered rock from his attack to kick directly at the wooden planks on the ground, using the flying sawdust to obscure his vision. Maxiu explained the secret, her tone filled with wonder and admiration, without a trace of the tension or distress over the hole in the stage. To Maxiu, this little bit of money is worth it. Due to underestimation, the fairy elf suffered another setback in the lightning-fast clash, sending her flying backwards. Fairy elf, use the power of the moon, Maxiu commanded again. Riolu, use Rock Smash. A beam of moonlight, condensed by the fairy elf, lashed out fiercely at Riolu. Seeing this, Riolu didn't dodge, his entire arm aglow with light, and then launched a powerful attack, causing the air to crackle. It was clear that he was prepared to withstand the power of the moon head-on. Bang! A blast of air exploded, but the rock-crushing attack didn't completely crush the moon power, as Shiba had imagined. Shiba reasoned that even if Rylu's rock-crushing attack couldn't completely crush the moon power, it wouldn't be as dramatic as it was now. After all, the fairy elf's strength was clear, a level above Rylu's. In that instant, Rylu, without a moment's delay, completely withstood the moon power and was sent flying backwards. If Shiba hadn't quickly caught him, Rylu would have been unstoppable, careening off the stage and into the crowd. How could this be? How could the fairy elf's moon power be so powerful? Shiba gasped in disbelief. Despite the constant use of his abilities, it had only been brief exchanges, each testing the other's strength. Aren't you talking nonsense? That's a fairy Pokemon, and moon power is a fairy type skill. It would have been fine if you'd let Rylu use a non-fighting type skill, but you actually let it use Rock Smash, a fighting type skill. Isn't that just asking for trouble? A bland voice suddenly echoed from the crowd behind Shiba. Then, before Shiba could recover from her daze, the voice continued, you know, fairy-type Pokemon counter Dragon-type and fighting-type Pokemon. Fairy-type Pokemon are even known as Dragon-type killers. If you'd let Rylu use Steel-type Alloy Claws, the situation would have been completely overturned. How could this be? What the hell is this fairy-type? Shiba, bewildered, instinctively asked. Shiba then turned around and scanned the stage below, trying to find the person who had warned her. Stop looking. Lower your head and look, I'm right below you, the voice came again, with a hint of helplessness. Chapter 332 Defeat. Scratching his hair, Ziba slowly lowered his head at the voice's prompt. His eyes instinctively scanned the area before instantly fixating on a familiar figure, unable to move their gaze. Hi. It's been a while, Ziba. You're still the same, not even checking your opponent's profile before a fight. Yu beamed at the stage, which, upon seeing him, seemed to be wearing a mask. Indeed, after a few seconds of observation, Yu finally spotted the figure standing there. He knew it. And at the same moment, on the other side of the stage, upon seeing Yu and Pikachu appear, Serena, the other two girls, and Xiaozhi were inexplicably delighted. Their initially gloomy expressions brightened. If it weren't for the fact that it was a fashion show, they would have rushed over to grab Yu and question him about his tardiness. Yu, why are you here? And what's this fairy type you were talking about? Ziba exclaimed in surprise. If it weren't for the ongoing battle, he would have almost jumped off the stage and given Yu a huge bear hug. Yu was so happy to see Ziba that he even subconsciously forgot about Pikachu's paws still pressing against his face. Haha, it's you, Ziba. Fairy type isn't a thing. It's a newly researched type in the Kalos region. And the Pokemon battling Lucario is none other than Eevee, evolving into itself by activating fairy energy within its body. And just to remind you, fairy-type Pokemon are immune to Dragon-type attacks. They also counter Fighting-type and Dark-type Pokemon, but Steel-type and Poison-type Pokemon can counter Fairy-type Pokemon. After all, he was his friend, and Yu wasn't about to watch Ziba lose the match simply because he didn't know about type counters. There's actually such a statistic. Apparently, the distance between Kalos and Kanto is so great that the news hasn't reached them yet. No wonder Rylu lost so much stamina after that moon power attack. Yu's reminder gave Shiba a look of sudden realization, but then a wave of annoyance returned. He hadn't expected a fighting-type king to be completely dominated by his opponent. If Yu hadn't warned him, wouldn't his reputation have been ruined? While he wasn't sure he'd win, he couldn't lose so badly. Thinking this to himself, Shiba quickly calmed down, his burning fighting spirit surging once again. After greeting Yu again, Shiba returned his gaze to the battle arena. After all, the battle wasn't over yet. As expected of a fighting-type king. Such a relaxed and comfortable state of mind, Xiu exclaimed, her understanding growing clearer. Putting aside the fact that Shiba hadn't deployed her main force, just sending out this newly captured Rylu was already overwhelming. If it weren't for its superior stats, she would have easily been defeated. Since Yu said that physical skills can counter so-called fairy-type skills, then Rylu used the Alloy Claw. Rylu's arms suddenly glowed white, imbued with the metallic sharpness, seemingly capable of tearing through anything at will. Rylu swiftly charged at the fairy elf, swinging its alloy claws relentlessly at it. Fairy elf, next. Xiu remained calm, unfazed by the opponent's skill stats. Fairy with a fairy elf's cry, Rylu reached the fairy elf, and its alloy claws were mercilessly swung out. Just as the audience closed their eyes, unable to bear the sight of the fairy elf's miserable state after being struck by the alloy claws. Sheba and Yu simultaneously opened their eyes wide, as if they had seen a ghost. Rylu's powerful alloy claws were tangled in the swirling knots of the fairy spirit, preventing them from advancing an inch. Regardless of the surprise of the crowd, Mashiu planned to seize the opportunity and end the fight. That's what the fairy spirit is like. Take it on a world tour. Though she didn't know what world tour meant, that didn't stop Sheba from issuing a counterattack. Huh. Too arrogant. You're trying to challenge Rylu's strength? Lift the knot. That's impossible. Rylu, use your Jin, Rio Rylu yelled, ready to unleash his Jin to break free from the fairy spirit's grasp. However, as Rylu unleashed his Jin, the knots wrapped around Rylu's arms shifted in Rylu's direction. Rylu immediately felt powerless, as if his full strength punch had hit cotton. Upon witnessing this, Yu and Ziba couldn't help but burst out in a chorus of curses. Fuck. This is using softness to overcome hardness. Fuck. How can this be the same trick as Yu? He knows that. The air was strangely awkward. Yu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Hey. Ziba, what do you mean? The person involved, I'm right behind you. Ziba ignored Yu, nor did he have the time to pay attention to him. His attention was completely focused on the battle. At this moment, Rylu's power was ineffective, and the fairy spirit tugged and pulled him off balance. Taking advantage of Rylu's loss of balance, the fairy spirit instantly tightened the knot wrapped around his arm, and his entire body was lifted up, practically traveling around the world. The next wave of maneuvers by Maxiu and the fairy spirit only made Ziba and Rylu even more desperate. Maxiu gave the order, this is how the fairy spirits work, use magic to shine, then use enchanting voices. Rylu, still enjoying her journey around the world, felt a flash of colorful light, and then was plunged into darkness. If it weren't for the whistling wind around her, she would have thought she had lost her fighting ability. Then, almost immediately, enchanting voices echoed in her ears, burying the whistling wind. Then, she felt as if her body was no longer her own, her will completely dissipated. Bang! Rylu was thrown to the ground by the fairy spirit without any resistance, and the wooden stage shook twice. Chapter 333 Apologize. The next morning, early in the morning. Hey. Yu, are you still you? Why does it feel like we haven't seen each other for so long? You've become a completely different person, and now you've even learned to cook. Shouldn't you be training your Pokémon and cultivating yourself at this time? In the Pokémon Center kitchen in Aromatherapy City, two figures stood there. One was wearing an apron, holding a soup spoon in one hand and a pot lid in the other, seemingly savoring the simmering soup. Surprisingly, aside from Sheba and Yu, there were no other cooks in the kitchen. The still dark sky outside suggested Yu and Sheba had gotten up quite early. After carefully tasting the soup and finding it acceptable, Yu replaced the spoon and seasoning packet. He then covered the pot again, intending to simmer it a little longer. After hearing Sheba's complaints, Yu wiped the mess with his apron and looked at Sheba, who was leaning against the door and yawning non-stop. Oh. There's nothing I can do. I'm helpless too. I'd really like to go to training right now, but I missed my appointment yesterday for some reason. Although Serena and the others weren't upset and even showed some concern for me, I could still see they were still a little upset, so I figured I'd get up early and make them breakfast as an apology. It turned out that after the battle between the fairy and Rylu yesterday, Maxiu had won and announced the end of tonight's fashion show. Then, Yu, along with Pikachu, went backstage to find the girls. Seeing Yu so late, almost late, the girls naturally questioned him. Yu, believing he couldn't lie to his friends, told them the truth. Finally, like a child who had made a mistake, Yu lowered his head and tapped his finger, appearing to let the girls deal with him. Although the girls had, as they had initially hoped, let Yu see them dressed in their fashionable and adorable outfits, they somehow felt less joyful than they had initially imagined. They didn't blame Yu, though, and even dragged him and Sheba to a food stall for a late-night snack. Even so, Yu still felt a bit guilty. After all, while he hadn't broken his promise, he still felt like he had broken it. They returned to the Pokémon Center. After washing up, the girls retired to their rooms to rest. Yu and Sheba, reunited after a long absence, chatted for a long time. It wasn't until Miss Joy called time for the night that they finally gave up and went back to their rooms to wash up and rest. Haha men, Sheba sneered disdainfully, looking at Yu, who was busy like a house husband, and shook his head helplessly. Shiba, you're wrong. I'm not a boy yet, Yu said nonchalantly. Ziba's mouth twitched. He didn't expect that after so long, Yu was still the same Yu, not changed at all. By the way, since we met yesterday, you still haven't told me how you ended up here? Don't tell me you're here on an alliance mission. I don't believe someone like you with a bit of a directionally challenged nature would actually travel all the way from the familiar Kanto region. Yu took a radish from the side, placed it on the chopping board, and began chopping it, asking without turning his head. Ziba's face was embarrassed, and he scratched his head. You're right, this is for you. Have you heard of the exchange meeting, huh? But judging by your appearance, I guess you haven't heard of the exchange meeting. Ziba looked very proud. It was obvious that if he could get the upper hands in front of Yu, it would be a very pleasant thing. But he was certainly going to be disappointed. After hearing Shiba's somewhat boastful words, Yu continued working while chattering away. Exchange meeting? I didn't expect you knew about it. Actually, I came here at the invitation of the island organizers of the exchange meeting. They say it's a major international event. It'll bring together many powerful warriors, as well as medical experts and scholars, and even Pokemon scholarship will be covered. Shiba's eyes lit up. Although Shiba wasn't interested in the medical and Pokemon discussions, he was fortunate that the exchange meeting was so extensive, bringing together many martial arts masters. Shiba, like Yu, was a passionate fighter. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the support of the Fighting King, and we wouldn't have become such close friends for so many years. I knew about the exchange meeting, but I'd only heard about it from others. But now that you mentioned it, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Yu paused his cooking and glanced out the window at the still drowsy sky, his eyes filled with longing and anticipation. Unlike Ziba, who was only looking forward to the competition, Yu was even more excited about the contents of the exchange meeting. After all, it also included a medical exchange. This was a golden opportunity for Yu, not only to promote his traditional Chinese martial arts, but also to bring glory to his country. Furthermore, from Ziba's detailed introduction to the exchange meeting, Yu had learned that it wasn't just a human exchange. There would also be academic discussions on Pokemon, as humans and Pokemon coexisted. After all, this was an era in which humans and Pokemon coexisted. It was expected to be a gathering of prominent figures. While, as Jizin had suggested, the older generation might not attend for various reasons, it was still quite exciting. Haha, by the way, Yu forgot to tell you. I'm not the only one coming this time, Ziba teased Yu with a mysterious smile. But to Yu, it seemed a bit like gloating. After Yu turned down the heat on the soup he was cooking, he turned around and stared at Ziba. You're not going to tell me that you came to the Kalos region this time to do a quest? No, Ziba said with an enigmatic smile. As you said before, even if we are all kings and Pokemon hunters, we won't be so idle as to meddle in the affairs of another region, unless that matter is very economical. I'm talking about the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto, and there's more than just me. What? So, after hearing Ziba's words again, Yu, who remained calm even when faced with a catastrophe, now deliberately had drops of cold sweat running down his cheeks. That's right. She's here too. Everyone, please give me some recommendation votes. Recommendation votes are free, and it would be a waste if you don't vote. Chapter 334 Relationship. Gulp. Yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, still looking unsure. Shiba, we are good friends. Are you sure you are not kidding me? Shiba smiled innocently. Of course we are friends. But as you expected, 3 of our 4 heavenly kings of Kanto are here. Dragon-type Heavenly King Du, and Ice-type Heavenly King Kona. As for Ghost-type Heavenly King Juzi, he was unable to come mainly because he was on a mission. Yu, who had originally had a glimmer of hope, became like a deflated ball when he heard Shiba mention Kona. What? Sister Kona came with us? No. Aren't you 4 heavenly kings all busy with your work? Plus, you have the identity of Pokemon investigator, so don't you have constant missions? How do you still have time to come to the Kalos region as a group? Are you being lazy, or are you teaming up to fight monsters? Ziba scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. Don't say you really guessed it right this time. After hearing that I was coming to the exchange meeting, they all expressed their interest and wanted to join in the fun, and they all came as a vacation. Originally, Orange was planning to come with us, but because she still had a mission, only we came. Alice. It's a blessing in disguise. Yu patted his cheek and asked again, where are Du and Kona now? Why are you the only one in Aromatherapy City? Well, Du went to find his brother. I heard that his brother is also on a training trip in the Kalos region. It is said that he also plans to participate in the league competition held in Kalos. As for your sister Kona, she went to the Yingsu gym in Yingsu City to find Fu. After all, they're both experts with Ice-type Pokemon. We agreed to meet up in Fangsa Town. Is that so? Although I have some mixed feelings, I've missed seeing Du, Kona, and Granny Orange after so long. A nostalgic look crossed Yu Yu's face. Indeed, Yu Yu and the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto are old friends, with Shiba and Kona being the closest. As for how Yu Yu knew the 4 heavenly kings, Professor Oak's reputation is well earned. Let's talk about those close to him, not just those far away. His connections extend throughout the Kanto region. Anyone who sees him has to give him some respect. It was through Professor Oak that Yu Yu met the current 4 heavenly kings of Kanto. Shiba and Yu Yu's bond was forged through fighting. Their initial encounter was a bloody brawl. At that time, Shiba wasn't the fighting king he is today, and his martial arts prowess was comparable to Yu Yu's. Therefore, the two of them would often get together, fighting to exhaustion. As for Kona, the story was even longer. To put it simply, during an incident, Yu Yu had taken advantage of Kona, leading to a misunderstanding about their relationship. Kona's constant recollection of the incident left her gnashing her teeth and blushing uncontrollably. Despite their close relationship, every time Yu Yu and Kona met, Kona would twist Yu Yu's ears or send out his ice Pokemon to freeze Yu Yu into a block of ice. This was why, upon hearing Kona's name, even the skilled and courageous Yu Yu shuddered, instinctively shielding his ears with both hands, fearing that Kona would appear and cause them to fall off. Shiba scoffed. "You missed us? You didn't even bother looking for us after coming back to the island nation. That's called missing us. You know, when she found out you left without saying goodbye, if we hadn't held Kona back tightly, she would have rushed over to you and ripped your ass off." Nonsense. Kona wouldn't be that mean. I'm sure she'll treat me well. Though his heart trembled, Yu Yu refused to admit it. He stubbornly insisted. Okay, whatever. Just don't cry in front of your 3 girlfriends. You'll be the one to be embarrassed again. Shiba could almost see the scene after Kona and Yu Yu met, and couldn't help but smile and gloating. They're not my girlfriends. Forget it, there's so much to say. You, a big fool, won't understand. Yu Yu wanted to explain his relationship with Serena and the other 2, but when he realized the more he explained, the more confusing it would be, he decided not to. Oh, long time no see. You've gotten a bit bolder, haven't you? You dare to say that to me? Have you forgotten how we used to not have to pin me to the ground and rub me? Shiba, you're the one. Am I weak in the fist, or are you just too proud? Back then, I didn't say you were bullying a kid, but you can't even handle a kid like me. How dare you call yourself a martial arts master? Ha ha ha. Yu Yu laughed exaggeratedly. Shiba's face flushed, and he was speechless. Thinking back, it seemed like it was just that, because both Yu Yu and he were martial artists, they were excited to see the prey and started sparring. Although Shiba's strength at that time hadn't reached Grandmaster level, he was still superior to Yu Yu. However, with his Chinese martial arts, Yu Yu and Shiba fought back and forth, neither of them able to defeat the other. Huh? Who knows? Have you wasted your cultivation in these past few years? Maybe this time, you're ready to be beaten by me. Although he knew Yu Yu was telling the truth, Shiba couldn't help but retort. Haha, I don't know if your cultivation has been wasted, but you can try it yourself. I promise I won't beat you to tears. Yu Yu shot back, even putting aside the task of cooking and making soup. If Xiaozhi and Xiaomao have been rivals since childhood, then Yu Yu and Ziba can be considered a formidable pair, of course, in terms of both martial arts and Pokemon battles. Wow. I never could have guessed that the little guy back then has gotten so arrogant now. Okay, I accept your challenge. Let's have a sparring match while it's still dark and there aren't many people around, Ziba suggested. Of course, no problem. But not now. I don't want the pot to explode when I get back. Then I'll have nothing to apologize for. Are you ready to help me? That won't do. Do your own thing. Ziba waved his hands, then hesitated. But then again, after all this time, I didn't even know you could cook. Are you sure it's edible? You can try. Chapter 335, Pokemon Performance Grading. When the first rays of morning sunlight illuminate the earth, it also marks the beginning of a new day. Inside the Pokemon Center, Serena, the other 2 girls, and Xiaoguang had just woken up and washed up. It's worth noting that Xiaoguang didn't stay at Maxiu's place, but had returned to the Pokemon Center with Air and the others. Perhaps because she had too much fun last night, Xiaoguang, who usually wakes up early, overslept because of the warmth of the bed. Although it wasn't the first time, Xiaoguang still felt a little apologetic. After all, cooking was usually her job. I didn't expect I overslept again. Serena and Air, I'm so sorry. It seems we'll have to make do with lunch in the Pokemon Center cafeteria today. I'll make it up to you this afternoon, or if I have time, don't worry. Don't worry. These are just small things. And we're a little embarrassed to have Xiaoguang wake up so early every day to prepare breakfast for us. So don't apologize. We'll thank you later, Serena said with a soothing smile. Because the staircase was narrow, only 2 people could pass side by side. Air stood next to Serena, with Xiaoguang and Xiaoguang behind her. At this moment, since all the Pokemon had been handed over to Miss Joy, the girls were carrying only their carry-on bags. Serena, walking, was rummaging through something in her pack. Glancing at Serena, Air suddenly said, "But then again, Serena, didn't you feel bad about wearing that cute outfit yesterday? After all, you wore it just for you." "Oh. Air, don't talk nonsense. I didn't wear it just for you." Serena's cheeks flushed at Air's words. She didn't care about rummaging through the things in her hands, and hurriedly covered her shyness with a serious expression. Yeah, that's right, it's just like I told you, to get your mind right for the performance competition later, PFFT. Serena, that expression on your face just now was really cute," Air chuckled. Even Xiaoguang and Xiaoguang, following behind, couldn't help but chuckle as they watched the 2 girls' playful banter. Air, Serena's face flushed with embarrassment, and she chided with a snarl, about to start a fight. Okay. Serena, I won't tease you anymore," Air pleaded. After a while of playful banter, Serena finally stopped when she saw someone trying to go up or down the stairs. The group hurried down the stairs, chatting and laughing as they headed towards the cafeteria. "By the way, Serena, I have something to tell you. Yesterday, I suddenly found out there's a Pokemon show in Aromatherapy City, and it's taking place today." Air seemed to suddenly remember something, and she glanced at Serena, sharing the news she'd just received last night with her good friend. How could that be? And why wasn't there any notice before? "I saw an announcement," Serena was surprised. Normally, a Pokemon show like this would be announced in any place where it's being held. But yesterday, they had spent a whole day in Aromatherapy City, and yet they hadn't seen any similar announcements or notices. Xiaoguang, walking alongside Xiaoguang, followed the 2 women. Hearing Serena's confusion, she thoughtfully said, "I think yesterday was also the day of the Maxiu fashion show, so the publicity must have been all about that. The Pokemon show probably got overshadowed." "Xiaoguang is right," Xiaoguang agreed, then chuckled and asked Serena, "What do you think, Serena? Are you going to participate this time? This, isn't it a little too hasty?" "I haven't had time to prepare yet," Serena hesitated. "Oh, no problem. Serena, you must believe in yourself. Your Pokemon show talent is every bit as good as mine. And if you really want to become the Queen of Kalos, there's no time to prepare. You should always be ready to take on all kinds of challenges and competitions." Air suddenly put his arm around Serena's shoulders, acting like a pair of buddies. He looked like an older brother admonishing his younger brother. After hearing what Air said, Serena felt a little shaken. Yes, if she continued to procrastinate and hesitate, the opportunity would be lost. She had to fight for everything on her own, whether it was the Pokemon show or Yu's words. As if that wasn't enough, Air put on a mysterious smile and tried to give Serena some more shocking information. The Triple Crown Satellite Tournament is divided into 2 different levels, the Novice Low-Level Tournament and the Master High-Level Tournament. Trainers initially participate in the Novice Low-Level Tournament. Winning 3 or more championships in various tournaments will earn them a Princess Key. With 3 Princess Keys, they can participate in the Master High-Level Tournament. The Pokemon and trainer who win the Master High-Level Tournament will receive the title of Kalos Queen. What? Serena was completely shocked, and even stopped walking forward. Xiaoguang, who was following behind, accidentally bumped into Serena's back. But Serena couldn't care less about that now. Her entire attention was focused on what Air had just said. Air's words contained so much information. However, Air acted as if she hadn't seen Serena's divine form. Let me give you some more information. The novice level competition has 2 performances. The first is a themed performance, like making a poffice, a cooking dance, or a riddle. Depending on the region, there are many other themes. The second is a free performance, common to all tournaments. It allows players to fully utilize the abilities of their Pokémon and perform alongside their trainers on stage. The Master level competition has no themed performances. Instead, it features multiple elimination rounds. Each round divides the performers into groups of 3, each performing together on stage. Each performer will first have a greeting moment. After each greeting, they will begin their simultaneous performance. The performer with the most outstanding performance will advance to the next elimination round, Rumble. Serena felt thunder rumbling overhead at this moment, and a sudden sense of powerlessness washed over her. I'm trying to fly before I even learn to walk. I've actually managed to sneak into the Masters and Advanced Divisions in previous matches without realizing it. No wonder I keep losing. I admit this picture is a bit wordy, but it's mainly because the author wanted to make the Pokemon show system clearer. Chapter 336 Delicious. Air, are you sure you're not kidding me? I actually sneaked into the Masters Advanced Tournament earlier. Why didn't you warn me? Serena's face was doleful, completely devoid of the excitement of participating in the Masters Advanced Tournament. I don't know. I thought you knew. Air spread her hands, then said with a Pokemon-like tone of regret. But speaking of which, my teacher is also a little responsible. After all, Pokemon shows were my teacher's way of promoting them in the Kalos region, but due to time constraints, some of the systems weren't very clear. For example, there's no distinction between high and low-level tournaments like yours, which puts some contestants at a disadvantage. But why did you tell me this only now? I just remembered, didn't I? And I thought you knew, but it's not too late now. Aren't you planning to start over? This is a great opportunity, Air chuckled, looking at Serena with encouragement. Okay, then won't this happen during the 3-venue satellite tournament? No. By then, all participating trainers and Pokemon will have proof of 3 Princess Gold keys, and their strength will be quite good, Air replied confidently. Okay, Serena pondered for a moment, then a look of determination flashed in her eyes. Air, after dinner, come with me to register. I don't want you to fall too far behind, come on, Serena. I'll go with Xiaozhi to cheer you on. Xiaoxu was also happy for Serena's decision. As they talked, the group soon arrived at the Pokemon restaurant. Arriving at the cafeteria's food counter, Serena was about to order when Miss Joy, who was preparing breakfast inside, saw the 4 girls and her eyes suddenly lit up. Isn't that Serena? Are you here for breakfast? You prepared it for you long before dawn. Just wait a moment, I'll bring it out for you. A moment later, the 4 girls gathered around a table, looking at a pot of salty porridge and a few side dishes in the center. Serena and the other 2, who knew you well, all looked at each other. Xiaoxu, in particular, was a little puzzled by the beautifully presented dishes. Are you sure you made this? Why do I only think you knows how to eat? It's not easy. After all this travel, this is the first time you has personally cooked for us, and he even skipped special training. Serena and the other 2 girls tacitly agreed not to start eating immediately, but instead gazed at the breakfast you had prepared for them on the table with deep emotion. After a moment of marveling, Xiaozhi asked, somewhat curiously, is it that serious? You just made you breakfast. And didn't he say it was an apology? How happy are you, Serena? Your beloved made it just for you. Serena's cheeks flushed red again, like ripe apples, incredibly alluring. You don't understand, do you? You and I have been traveling for so long, and I've never seen him proactively cook a meal. We've almost always done it, so, if that's what you're saying, then Yu's cooking skills are questionable, Xiaozhi remarked, fittingly. Xiaoxu and the other 2 seemed to have a sudden realization, their faces turning pale. He looks good to me. It can't be some kind of shady cuisine. Xiaoxu, the best cook among the group, offered a rather uncertain and appropriate comment. This, Serena's rosy cheeks paled. She had made up her mind. You had prepared this loving breakfast just for her, and no matter how disgusting it was, she would finish it and offer him a word of encouragement. Unbeknownst to Serena, Xiaoxu, Air, and even Xiaozhi were sharing the same sentiment. With a selfless spirit, Xiaoxu was the first to pick up her chopsticks. Gentle and kind, She could be described as virtuous and virtuous. She first picked up a slice of meat and quickly stuffed it into her mouth, chewing it a few times before swallowing it whole. That taste? I can't quite taste it, so I'll take another piece. Watching Xiaoxi's increasingly rapid picking up, Air was stunned. Was this still the same Lady Xiaoxi? Why was she eating so carelessly, seemingly disregarding her appearance, as if she were snatching food from her mouth? Xiaoxi, how do you like it? Xiaoguang couldn't help herself. If she took any more, it would be gone. It doesn't feel very good. But for everyone's health, if I don't go to hell, who will? Xiaoxi said with a righteous expression, trying to put on a stern expression, but her movements betrayed her. So delicious, Serena exclaimed beside her. Xiaoxi, you're so cunning. You're so greedy for something so delicious, and you're thinking of keeping it all to yourself? I really misjudged you. Air followed closely behind, her movements unwavering. Xiaoguang scooped up a mouthful of porridge doubtfully and put it into her mouth, feeling a burst of deliciousness melting in her mouth. It's so delicious. Xiaoxi, you big liar. You said it wasn't good before. Then, the scene at the table suddenly changed. 4 beautiful girls, without a care for their appearance, devoured the food on the table. In a moment, the table, which had been full of food, was completely empty. Air burped, somewhat disregarding her appearance, then leaned back in her chair with a look of comfort, patting her slightly expanded but still perfectly fat-free belly. It's so delicious. I wonder how you made it. I didn't expect he's usually so reserved, but he actually has such a knack. It feels like I could eat food like this every day. I wonder how you mix it? I'll definitely ask him to teach me when the time comes. Xiaoxi looked expectant. Although she thought her cooking was already good enough, Yu's hidden talents were clearly even better. Selena, you want to eat this every day? That's easy. Just tell Yu every day and ask him to make it for you. Xiaoguang chuckled and offered a bad idea. Chapter 337 Dog Food. HMPHEU. Today's battle isn't over yet. If I weren't hungry, I would have defeated you long ago. We'll continue after I've eaten. Hear me too. If I hadn't gotten up early, hadn't rested, and was hungry, I would have crushed you to the ground. The electronic windows in the backyard of the Pokémon Center opened to the sides. 2 figures, one sturdy and one thin, entered, exchanging verbal blows. They looked utterly disheveled, their faces stained, and even their clothes tattered. Yu's once white robe was now reduced to strips of cloth, but his pants were still intact. Hiba wasn't much better off, his shirt completely gone, revealing his muscular upper body once again. Their appearance might have been okay to those who knew them, but those who didn't might have thought they were refugees at the Pokémon Center. HMPH. What do you think? Will you come later? Ziba was very concerned about not being able to decide the winner with Yu on the spot, so he looked at Yu provocatively again. Ziba, you are not good enough after all these years? You haven't been proved at all. Come on, I am afraid of you. Yu did the same and fought back. No. I always feel that this is too monotonous. I heard that you have to fight the aromatherapy gym today. How about this? Let's have a Pokemon battle later, so I can help you warm up, right? You can't beat me in fighting. You plan to start with Pokemon, right? You are really a cunning guy. Yu laughed a few times. As if his thoughts were read, Ziba's bruised face actually blushed for the first time. No, it's up to you whether you agree or not. If you're afraid and refuse, I won't look down on you, no problem. Fighting King, I've been wanting to meet you for a while now. Don't let me down when the time comes. It's not a pleasant feeling to get slapped in the face. The two of them chatted and bickered, and soon they were inside the restaurant. Serena, the other two, and Xiaoguang were just finishing up their meal. Arriving at the table where the girls were clearing, Yu couldn't help but curl his lips. How rude. They'd finished everything, not even a drop of soup left. I didn't expect you to all finished. I was thinking of testing Yu's cooking skills, Ziba said with some regret. He had originally thought he could use Yu's cooking skills to tease him, but now it seemed he would be disappointed. Yu, you're back. I'm so sorry, the breakfast you made was so delicious, so I couldn't help myself. Xiaozu blushed slightly when she saw Yu coming, and said a little embarrassedly. Yu, I didn't realize you're so talented. You're actually such a good cook, but you usually just eat for free, Air teased. Yu's breakfast is really delicious. Oh, He sighed heavily. From today on, Yu could no longer hide the secret that he could cook. He guessed that he would be very happy in the days to come. However, seeing the happy expressions on the faces of the girls, Yu also breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that they were very satisfied with his apology. Is it really that delicious? Are you sure it won't give you diarrhea? Ziba took in the expressions of the girls and raised his thick eyebrows. It's really delicious. Seeing Ziba's unconvinced look, Serena quickly responded, her puffed face looking so cute. Ignoring the arguments between Sheba and Serena, Yu turned his gaze to Air. Air, look at you guys packing up. What are your plans for later? Want to go to the gym tournament with me? I'm sorry. I just learned there's a Pokemon show in Aromatherapy City today. Although I'm not planning on attending, I still need to go with Serena, Air explained. So, Serena, you must do your best and strive to get your first princess key, Yu encouraged Serena. Yu, I'm also planning to go with Serena and the others. So, I'm sorry I can't go to your gym tournament, Xiaoxu chimed in. That's a shame. But, Serena, I'm sorry I can't be there to cheer you on. After all, we're a bit pressed for time, Yu expressed his understanding. After all, compared to the excitement and passion of Pokemon battles, girls still prefer the fashion and dazzling displays of Pokemon shows. Oh right. I didn't look closely just now. Yu and Ziba Xiaoguang, why are you all so bruised and battered? Did you two have a fight? Xiaojur suddenly exclaimed. Oh, really? Now that Xiaojur says that, I didn't notice it because of the angle just now. Air followed closely behind, covering her mouth and exclaiming. Yu, are you okay? There's blood at the corner of your mouth. Serena quickly dropped the work in her hands, took out a pink handkerchief from her pocket, came to Yu, and carefully and gently wiped the corner of his mouth. This. No. It's nothing serious. I just accidentally bumped into it. Looking at the serious expression on the beautiful face so close to him, and smelling the faint fragrance of a young girl emanating from Serena, Yu's face couldn't help but blush, and his speech became a little incoherent. Ah. How did you get hit like this? You are so careless. Serena gently wiped the corner of Yu's mouth while scolding him. Turning around silently, King Ziba was now full of despair. Please, I am also a victim, okay? Please stop showing off. Although I am hungry, you don't have to make me eat dog food. Especially when he saw that the other women all cast caring eyes on Yu, Ziba's heart was even more so. He had already silently shouted and roared in his heart, I need it too. You can't be so partial to one over the other. When he accidentally glanced at Yu's expression, Ziba became even more angry. Oh my god. You silly boy, what's with that expression on your face? You really don't know how to appreciate the blessing you have. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind. Since you have treated me to a lot of dog food, don't blame me for being rude later. I will treat you to a meal with a Supreme Luxury Edition meal later. Huh? Should I use strange power? Still sending Chevron, or Belang? Ziba thought silently in his heart. Thanks to Keizu for the reward of 100 book coins. Kinai is a man of his words. For every reward of 2,000 book coins, he will add a chapter. This one counts as an extra chapter. The conditions for adding chapters here are mentioned again. For every reward of 2,000 book coins, he will add a chapter. For 10 monthly tickets, he will add a chapter. For every 50 or more recommended tickets, he will add a chapter. For every 50 or more recommended tickets a week, he will add a chapter. Kinai currently has a lot of money saved up. He is so rich, waiting for everyone to come and take advantage of him. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, Dragon Fairy. Then, Yu, we'll be leaving now. You guys go have breakfast. Goodbye, King Sheba. We'll be leaving now. It turned out that after Serena applied a rather childish band-aid to Yu's face, she rejoined the group clearing the table. The four girls quickly finished packing. After saying goodbye to Sheba and Yu, they quickly went to Miss Joy to retrieve their Pokemon. After watching the girls leave, Yu and Sheba quickly went to the order window to get their breakfast and began to eat. However, their speed was so great that a female trainer sitting at the table next to them, her mouth wide open, forgetting to put her food in. Let's put Yu and Shiba aside for now and look elsewhere. Aromatherapy Hotel. This hotel is located in Aromatherapy City. Its name doesn't give away its size. After all, it's named after a city. At this moment, in a certain room, two figures, one large and one small, were talking about something unknown. If Yu were here now, he would have cried out in surprise, for he knew both of them. One of them was Urarunabuno, who had teamed up with Yu yesterday for a doubles match. Sitting across from Urarunabuno was a rather cool-looking man with brown hair and a black cape. This man was none other than the dude that Yu and Ziba had spoken about earlier, and one of the other two Kanto celestial kings who had accompanied Ziba to the Kalos region this time, the dragon-type dude. Speaking of this dragon-type dude, he was truly remarkable. Not only was he one of the 4 celestial kings of the Kanto region, but he was also the champion of the Hamba City Pokemon World Championship and one of the 8 masters recognized by the Pokemon Battle Committee. Due to his proficiency with dragon-type Pokemon, he was also known as Urarunabuno, the Dragon Usher. His Dragonite was even more formidable. Were it not for the Ice-type Kona's stat restrained, it would have practically swept the other celestial kings. At this moment, Dragon King Yulongdu, without the aura of a king and Pokemon investigator, looked at Yulong's eye with a warm and respectful demeanor. Brother, tell me. Why are you here? Don't tell me you're on vacation. And why did you call me here so early in the morning? Yulong's eye looked at Yu with a hint of dissatisfaction. He had planned to play a few more matches with Yu last night after their doubles match, but Yu had run off because of something. Dejected, he had no desire to go shopping, so he returned to the Pokemon Center, handed his Pokemon to Miss Joy, and retired to his room for a deep sleep. Yulong's eye, who had originally planned to sleep until he woke naturally, received a call from his brother before dawn. So, under his brother's verbal and physical threats, he quickly washed up and rushed here. He was still a bit dazed. If he weren't facing his brother, he would have wanted to fall back and fall asleep. Haha, to be honest, I'm really here on vacation this time, Du said with a sunny smile, ignoring Yulong's eye's complaining look. Really? Brother, you're such a busy man. You're actually taking a vacation? You, the king of the Kanto League and Pokemon Hunter, really have a lot of free time, Yulong's eye said with some surprise. He knew his brother was a busy man. He saw him from 1 o'clock to the next day, and the number of days he saw him from 1 o'clock to the next could be counted on his hands and feet. That's why we need to balance work and rest. Well, after such a busy life every day, we need to relax and unwind. It's not just me this time, even Fighting King Shiba and Ice King Kona are here. If it weren't for the mission, Ghost King Orange would also come, Du revealed. As his brother rattled off the names and titles, Nobuo Mariu's eyes lit up with each one. Ah! I didn't expect even the Kings Nako and Shiba are here. Where are they now? I really want to give them a fight. Even if I know I'll lose, it's more fun to fight the stronger ones. Nobuo Mariu's face was filled with excitement, his previous lethargy gone. Haha, let's wait until your Pokemon can defeat my Dragonite. Actually, I was supposed to be here yesterday, but I had some other things to do, so I waited until now to join you. I was planning on having you accompany me, your brother, for a stroll. What do you think? Any objections? Du stared at Nobuo Mariu with his bright eyes, as if to say, don't you dare say no. Just give it a try. It turned out that after Du, Shiba, and Kona separated in the Kalos region, Shiba and Kona each pursued their own goals, while Du, with nothing better to do, wandered around. Only after learning where his brother was did he rush over. Therefore, he was a day slower than Shiba. As for why Du chose to stay at a hotel instead of a Pokemon Center, it was because the Pokemon League stipulated that any trainer or adult who had been traveling for more than 5 years must pay a fee to stay at a Pokemon Center, while staying at a Pokemon Center for free. While Du, as a member of the Pokemon League, had privileges, he didn't stay at a Pokemon Center overnight, adhering to the principle of not bothering others when necessary. Secondly, staying at a Pokemon Center wasn't as comfortable as staying at a hotel. I'll go, isn't it? But here's a deal. As a condition, when you come back, you have to battle Pokemon with me and teach me some battle knowledge. Then, I'll avenge my previous defeat and defeat you for revenge. Yulong's and I readily agreed, but he wasn't one to take a loss, he had his own plans in mind. No problem, Du agreed with a smile, thinking to himself. Why does the name Yu sound familiar? Could this Yu's Ioxin was talking about be the same Yu? I heard he's been traveling to the battlefield behind the Pokémon Center. Indeed, just as everyone expected, Yu had come once again. After breakfast, Yu and Shiba went to retrieve the Pokémon that had been left with Miss Joy to recover their strength. They had agreed to begin their decisive battle in this very familiar spot of Yu's. Chapter 339 Pikachu vs Riolu. Yu, let me, the Fighting King, see how strong you are. Have you gained anything from your long journey? Standing in the command area across from Yu, Ziba laughed excitedly, an invisible aura rising around him. Just come on. Similarly, the aura surrounding Yu was also rising. Looking at the red and white Pokeball in his hand, Yu was overcome with emotion. Ziba, to be honest, we've known each other for so long, and while we've often competed, it was always limited to fistfights. We've never really had a Pokemon battle before. I'm really eager to get started. Haha, I felt the same way, Ziba said eagerly. As they had said, despite their long acquaintance, Yu and Ziba had only ever competed in fistfights. Due to Yu's age, and because Pikachu and Suicune had remained hidden in their eggs, Yu hadn't yet obtained a Pokemon, and the two hadn't been able to engage in a Pokemon battle. Then what are you waiting for? Let's get started. I won't bully you right now. After all, my most powerful Pokemon is also champion level. If I were to film it, you'd probably accuse me of bullying again. So, just like yesterday against Miss Maxiu, I'll just send out my quasi-champion level Riolu. Although he'd given it much thought beforehand, and even after all the dog food he'd just been fed, Ziba had considered sending out his champion-level Pokemon to teach Yu a lesson. But as Ziba had said, he didn't want to be accused of bullying again. Therefore, before the battle even began, Ziba decided to give Yu a heads up and let him prepare himself. I know. When did you become so nagging? Let's get started. Yu curled his lips in an impatient tone. You brat. Riolu, come out and teach that brat a lesson. Infuriated by Yu, Ziba flung his Pokeball with all his might. If that's the case, then I'll call out my good friend. Pikachu, it's you. Yu waved his hand, and the already prepared Pikachu leaped into the arena. Pikachu looking at the Riolu across from him, Pikachu matched its momentum, barking a few times in defiance, arcs of electricity faintly pulsing from the red electric sacs on its cheeks. Oh. I remember Pikachu wasn't your first Pokemon? I didn't expect you'd already send one. Do you really value me enough? Shiba rubbed his head in surprise. Haha, just as you said, Yu wore a confident smile. As for why he didn't send out Suicune, a legendary beast, it wasn't because he was afraid Shiba would have any ill thoughts after seeing Suicune, but mainly because he wanted to quickly improve his rapport with Suicune. Therefore, Pikachu was rarely sent out. Adding to the challenges from some roadside trainers, Yu didn't want to waste his talents, so he sent out Charmeleon and the others to gain experience. At this rate, Pikachu's chances of fighting are almost numbered. Furthermore, it's crucial to conserve some strength and conceal its hidden abilities in preparation for the upcoming battle at the aromatherapy gym. Pikachu, take the initiative, use Flash. Riolu, let's use Flash, too. With a command, the two Pokemon attacked each other almost simultaneously, two wisps of light and shadow intertwining. They collided, separated, and then collided again. Neither Pokemon gained the slightest advantage. Yu, your Pikachu is quite well trained. It's even as powerful as my Riolu in Flash, even though I've only recently become comfortable with it. Ziba was surprised. Looking at the Pikachu on the field, evenly matched with his own Riolu, he was filled with thoughts. Everyone says the four Heavenly Kings are powerful, but few know that in Pokemon battles, the Pokemon's own potential and abilities account for 70%, while the trainer's commanding ability accounts for the remaining 30%. So, let's see, Yu, are you truly at that 30%? Riolu uses Alloy Claw, Pikachu uses Iron Tail, Riolu uses Rock Smash, Pikachu uses High Speed Move to dodge, then 100,000 volts, Pikachu condensed a violent bolt of lightning, fiercely striking Riolu as he continued his attack. Riolu uses Lightning Dodge to dodge. Facing the incoming lightning, Riolu slammed his feet into the ground, his entire body like a cannonball. With a brilliant maneuver, he dodged the 100,000-volt attack and then, taking advantage of the opportunity, crept up closer to Pikachu. Not good, Yu finally gasped at the sight. Right now, Riolu uses his power, taking advantage of Pikachu's weakened state and new strength. He launched a powerful attack at Pikachu's tiny body. Bang! With a muffled thud, Pikachu's already small body, under the force of Rylu's power, rolled over and over on the ground like a broken sack. I was a little careless. How are you, Pikachu? Yu patted his head in frustration. Pikachu, after rolling over and over, using inertia, Pikachu quickly righted itself, bounced off the ground, and readied itself for the attack. Yu, I really have to praise you. Pikachu is really fast. Even Rylu can't keep up, Shiba marveled, commenting on Pikachu like a commentator. Is that a bit surprising? More surprises are yet to come. Pikachu wants to show the king of fighters how powerful we are, so we're using high-speed movement, and then Shadow Clone. Pikachu used high-speed movement, coupled with Shadow Clone, and suddenly more and more Pikachu appeared on the field, appearing in all directions, with Rylu at the center. Pika Pika Pikachu's cries echoed throughout the field, confusing Rylu. For a moment, he couldn't tell which one was the real one. Countless Pikachus, centered around Rylu, began to run in a circle, seemingly ready to attack at any moment. Chapter 340 Pikachu vs Rylu. Pikachu, that's a pretty good tactic. Are you trying to confuse Rylu, making it hard for him to figure things out? Hiba, still mindful of his role as a commentator, showed no sign of nervousness at the sight of Rylu surrounded by Pikachu. Rylu, use Stomp. Rylu unleashed Stomp, stomping his foot hard into the ground. Suddenly, waves of vibrations spread outward, centered around Rylu. The Pikachu, affected by this, was forced to halt its attack. The shadow clones that had covered most of the battlefield vanished like foam in an instant. Great opportunity, Rylu, use the Alloy Claw. Rio, seeing Pikachu's physical form revealed by the Stomp, Rylu shouted in response. His arm glowed with a white metallic sheen, and with a hint of sharpness, he fiercely grabbed at the nearby Pikachu. Pikachu, stop being stunned. Use Iron Tail to counterattack, Yu hurriedly ordered. Clink, clink, clink. Suddenly, the sound of two metals clashing echoed, and even sparks flew from the friction between the two skills. Could this be the legendary saying that all schemes and tricks are useless in the face of a certain force? Yu observed the situation on the field, secretly thinking of a solution. That's right, why not try that move? Suddenly, looking at Pikachu's Iron Tail, which was constantly colliding and separating from the Alloy Claw, a plan came to mind. Pikachu, keep using Iron Tail like this, Yu ordered. Oh. Are you planning to go head-to-head with me? Then I've never been afraid of anyone. Hiba felt a little strange at Yu's sudden order, but he still ordered, Rylu, take Iron Tail and use Alloy Claw. Indeed, the confidence that comes with great strength. Shiba ordered Rylu to take Pikachu's Iron Tail. Both Shiba and Rylu were undeniably formidable in terms of strength. Driven by pride, they refused to retreat or dodge in the face of Pikachu's tiny strength. This was exactly what Yu wanted. He had thoroughly mastered Shiba's personality. Now, it was time to demonstrate his true skills. This is how Pikachu does it. Condensate the electric ball in your tail, then unleash Iron Tail. Suddenly, amidst the clinking of metal, the two previously radiant skills suddenly shone with a faint yellow energy. Wisps of electricity, like dancing electric snakes, intertwined and danced between the two skills. At the end of Pikachu's Iron Tail, which had previously shone with a metallic sheen, a fist-sized ball of electricity gradually formed. Using the rest of his tail to block the attacks from the Alloy Claws, the ball of electricity gradually condensed and grew. The scene on the field was a bit comical. Pikachu, adorned with the electric ball, looked rather discomfited, dodging and parrying. Now, Pikachu used the electric ball, seizing the moment Rylu swung both hands simultaneously. Yu quickly instructed Pikachu to mercilessly hurl the already concentrated electric ball at the unsuspecting Rylu. Leo, as expected, Yu's timing was impeccable. Pikachu's electric ball grew larger in Rylu's eyes, but at that moment, it could do nothing but watch helplessly. Bang! The electric ball exploded, sending Rylu reeling, its entire body flying backwards. Yu, of course, wouldn't let Pikachu miss such a prime opportunity. He quickly ordered, Pikachu, use Lightning Flash, then Iron Tail. Pikachu, true to his tacit cooperation, Yu's command was instantly followed by a sudden push from his limbs into the ground. His entire body blasting out like an arrow. He mercilessly rammed Rylu's vitals. Furthermore, to better carry out Yu's command, Pikachu resorted to a combo attack, unleashing nearly every skill he could think of, bombarding Rylu with a barrage of attacks. Pikachu, continuously unleashing lightning flash, was like a tiny car, constantly ramming Riolu back and forth. Each impact sent Riolu flying high into the air, preventing it from hitting the ground. As Pikachu's lightning flash became more and more fluent and frequent, Riolu barely had time to react. Every time Pikachu's lightning strike struck, Riolu's thoughts were interrupted. "That's a pretty good tactic," Yu's voice echoed again, a hint of dissatisfaction. "But if that's all you're going to do, then this battle is over." Riolu, Yu's double retaliate. Riolu, now devoid of any independent thought, heard his master's command just as Pikachu's iron tail was about to close in. Once again, and during Pikachu's iron tail attack, Riolu gritted his teeth, then, his gaze filled with determination, activated double retaliate. Because iron tail was also a physical attack, double retaliate was successfully activated. Pikachu felt an invisible force acting upon his body, as if being struck back by his own full-strength iron tail. Having landed safely after the attack, maintaining a safe distance from Riolu, Riolu suddenly shuddered and fell lightly to the ground. However, Riolu's situation wasn't much better. His body was staggering, and he was now kneeling on one knee. After all, Pikachu's previous combo had been relentless. Even though he hadn't used all his strength, it was still a formidable attack. Furthermore, both Pokémon were only at the same level, so there was no chance of crushing one another, let alone any suppression or advantage. On the battlefield, the Pokémon from both sides were breathless after this brief exchange, but their gazes remained fixed on each other. They seemed to have a tacit understanding, waiting for the other to fall first. Then, they could retreat, their victory complete, and then they would collapse to the ground to rest. Chapter 341 Absorption Fist. Time ticked by, bit by bit. It passed so slowly, as if an entire century had passed. The two Pokémon continued to glare at each other, even their trainers, Shib and Yu, joined in. The atmosphere was tense, fearing that one of them would be the first to lose control. However, the outcome was beyond their expectations. Huff Pika Pika. The only sound in the silence was the heavy breathing of the two Pokémon. Each side glared at the other, refusing to yield, as if this would bring the other down and render them incapable of fighting. Is this too much? In that case, Pikachu, used Shadow Clone, then Lightning Ball. Yu was the first to give in, giving Pikachu the first order. Riolu, used Rock Smash on the ground. The battle was about to break out. Then, the two Pokémon, still staring at each other, suddenly. Pikachu took the lead, sprinting forward with all four limbs, followed closely by Shadow Clones. This unleashed a wave of power, creating a sea of Pikachu. It slammed down on Riolu, who was like a small boat, with relentless force, as if to drown him in the army of Pikachu's Shadow Clones. But Riolu wasn't to be trifled with. He snorted coldly. His glowing fist slammed into the ground, living up to its name, Rock Smash. The ground suddenly cracked, spiderweb-like cracks spreading in all directions. Each of Pikachu's Shadow Clones was affected, vanishing into thin air like foam. Rock Smash is truly a skill you never tire of. Seeing the effect of Rock Smash, Shiba chuckled softly, his smile so smug that Yu almost wanted to rush up and challenge him to another fistfight. But the thought was quickly suppressed as soon as it arose. After all, the Pokémon were the stars of the show, and as trainers, they couldn't afford to steal their limelight. Never tire of trying? In that case, Pikachu, use 100,000 volts, Riolu, use Lightning Bolt. Shiba licked her lips, seeming slightly excited. Let's see which is faster, your Pikachu's 100,000 volts or Riolu's Lightning Bolt. Are you planning on a quick end to this battle? Then I'll stick with you to the end, Yu muttered to himself, also appearing quite excited, sensing Shiba's thoughts. Pikachu unleashed the 100,000 volts. While the impact wasn't as impressive, it was still imbued with a force that should not be underestimated. Under Pikachu's control, the 100,000 volts slashed straight at Riolu with pinpoint accuracy. But as the king of Pokémon, Riolu was no pushover. With a single push of his feet, he instantly burst into incredibly fast speed, leaving behind a faint afterimage. Though fleeting, his speed was impressive nonetheless. 100,000 volts pursued Riolu, a trail of white light trailing behind him. Anyone who hadn't seen him would have exclaimed in surprise, "Fuck. Sparks and lightning all the way. What's this?" Under Pikachu's control, 100,000 volts pursued Riolu relentlessly. It was incredibly fast. In a matter of seconds, Riolu was already in front of Pikachu. However, Pikachu remained unfazed by the sudden appearance, a sly smile playing on his adorable face. 100,000 volts, once in hot pursuit, suddenly changed direction and found himself waiting on the path Railu would inevitably take. Oh. You're quite capable. But I was once called the Gun King, Railu, don't be a coward. Go for it. Use Absorbing Punch. At this moment, Shiba exuded a manly air, a look of unparalleled dominance. It was as if the mighty 100,000 volts skill, with its constantly flickering arcs of electricity, were no match for their Pokémon. Leo, as expected, upon hearing Shiba's command, Railu, whose eyes had previously flickered, instantly became resolute, roaring. Instead of retreating, he charged forward, facing the incoming 100,000 volts with a spirit of facing the challenge head-on. He paid no heed to the fact that his body, already ripped and ripped by the 100,000 volts, was visibly ripped apart. Though his pace slowed visibly, he advanced steadily. This was only for Yu. If it were anyone else, Shiba wouldn't be so impulsive, disregarding the injuries sustained by his Pokémon and issuing such a self-destructive order. After all, this was the way Shiba and Yu fought, whether it was Pokémon battles or close quarters combat. As the saying goes, 1,000 cups are insufficient when meeting a true friend, but a single word is too much when facing a stranger. Since it was rare to meet a true friend, they tried to minimize the use of scheming tactics, leaving only a physical confrontation, a clash of strength against strength. Although still not approaching Pikachu, the distance between Railu and Pikachu was only a little over a meter. After a few strides, they were incredibly close. As Pikachu's once confident expression gradually shifted to one of fear, Railu's Absorbing Punch sealed its retreat, striking Pikachu mercilessly. It was this Absorbing Punch that forced Pikachu to halt its 100,000 volt output. After watching Pikachu's body fall out again like a broken sack, as if completing the mission of the last punch, Railu's body softened, and as Pikachu landed, Railu first knelt heavily on the ground, and then his whole body lay on the ground, motionless, obviously losing the ability to fight. It is worth mentioning that as Railu's body fell heavily to the ground, Pikachu's body also hit the ground just right, without any rebound, just lying there motionless, obviously losing the ability to fight. It can only be said that Railu is so confident in his own strength. After throwing an Absorbing Punch at the opponent, he didn't even look at the result, and just lay down on the ground. But perhaps because he was too tired, he and his opponent lost their ability to fight at the same time. Chapter 342, Strange Strength. What's going on? Who loses their combat ability first in this situation? How do we decide the winner? This was just an amateur battle, unlike a league tournament or some prestigious tournament. A proper Pokémon battle wasn't just supervised by a referee, but also monitored by a series of cameras, ready to be used if both Pokémon lose their combat abilities simultaneously. However, with the conditions being rudimentary and completely unprepared, Ziba and Yu stared at each other in bewilderment. For a moment, they were at a loss as to what to do. A deathly silence fell once again. No more heavy breathing from the angry Pokémon, no more tense scenes, only an eerie stillness. After the initial silence, Shiba's somewhat gruff voice rang out, "Well, Pikachu fell after being hit by Railu's final attack, the Absorbing Punch. So, Yu, this is also the first Pokémon battle, and Railu and I have won our first victory. Hey. Why? You think you're the king, but what you said makes sense. I said Pikachu finally hit the ground after your Railu collapsed and lost his ability to fight. And if that's the case, then Pikachu lost his ability to fight later than Railu," Yu retorted defiantly. Hey, how can you calculate the outcome of a Pokémon battle like you do? If that's the case, then if we were battling a flying Pokémon, and they were in a situation like ours, and they fell from that height, wouldn't it mean they won? Shiba's eyes widened, and he displayed the aura of a fighting king, intending to overwhelm Yu and gain his complete respect. Yu's mouth twitched. He hadn't expected that this King Ziba, who usually looked muscular and somewhat bumbling, would react so quickly and immediately defend his own remarks. But come to think of it, who could be considered a pushover to become one of the 4 heavenly kings of a regional alliance and a Pokémon investigator? And even the dumbest person, after so much time spent in the dark side of the world, would have grown, becoming not only shrewd but also cunning. However, Yu was no pushover. Seeing the invisible aura emanating from Ziba bearing down on him, he quickly unleashed his own unique aura to counter his attack. He continued, HMPH. Don't think you're the king and everything you say is right. Everything needs evidence. Pikachu was clearly still conscious from the moment he was sent flying until he hit the ground, right? And your Riolu is already kneeling on the ground, completely incapacitated. How can you say that? It was clearly Pikachu that was completely incapacitated by Riolu's absorbing punch, right? Shiba refused to give in. The scene between the two was truly hilarious, with each claiming their own. If Shiba's fans had seen this, they wondered what they would think. After all, they imagined Shiba, the fighting king, as a muscular man. How could he engage in such a sure-like argument? But Yu was about to say something else. But he was immediately interrupted by a roar from Ziba. His tiger eyes glared fiercely at Yu, as if he would lunge at Yu if Yu said anything more. But what but? There's nothing to say. Why aren't you convinced? Do you want another fight? Haha, come on, you're so scared of Yu. You think being the fighting king is so impressive? You just started a few years earlier than me. If we had started at the same time, who would win is still a foregone conclusion, Yu retorted unconvincedly. He also felt the same way. Although they were considered good friends, they were also fierce rivals. Even when it came to Pokémon battles, they weren't even on the same level. But Yu was so confident that, given enough time, he would be able to train a Pokémon as strong as Ziba's. This was evident in the fact that after only 2 months of traveling, he had already trained a Pikachu that could rival even the recently captured and trained Pokémon of a league champion like Ziba. While this doesn't represent the full potential of Ziba's strongest forces, it does offer some clues. After all, a Pokémon's aptitude and potential can be both positive and negative, and can be seen from the moment they're captured and trained, revealing the heights they can reach later in life. Ho then keep going, Ziba's hearty laughter echoed. Tisk tisk Yu licked his chapped lips, the previously dormant flame of fighting spirit in his eyes gradually flaring up again. Come on, I'd love to see you, Yu replied, unwilling to be outdone. Ziba's lips curled into a wide grin, but without responding to Yu, he silently retrieved Riolu's Pokéball and put it back. Similarly, Yu walked into the arena, scooped up Pikachu, and returned to the command area. Yu, are you ready? Warm-up exercises are over. Although this is a sea vacation, and I don't have my main Pokémon with me like I would on a mission, my good partner has been with me the entire time. As Ziba spoke, he had unknowingly pulled a Pokéball from his arms and enlarged it. Oh. Good partner? Could it be your starting Pokémon, Ziba? Yu asked curiously, a sense of foreboding rising within him. Indeed. Come out and fight. My good partner, strike force, bang! Ziba tossed a Pokéball, which opened above the battlefield with a flash of red light. A sturdy Pokémon with a skeletal and muscular structure very similar to human, 4 muscular arms, and a golden belt slung around its waist appeared on the battlefield. Unlike Fat Tiger's strike force, each of Ziba's strike force's arms was muscular, exuding a beautiful, explosive power, and possessed a more muscular build. At least its head stronger than Fat Tiger's, and the aura it exudes is even more intense. How should I put it? In a word, it truly deserves to be the main pet of the King of Fighters. Chapter 343 Benefits. Is this the most powerful Pokémon in the hands of the Heavenly King? It's truly formidable. Judging by the power it exudes, its strength has probably reached champion level this time, Yu gasped, speculating inwardly. To be honest, Yu had seen champion level Pokémon before. For example, Karuna and Serena, both champions of their respective regions, were close by. Yu had seen champion-level Pokémon in their possession before. And even further afield, Yu's master, Zhao Kuang's Suicune, was also champion-level. However, while both were champion-level Pokémon, the power they exuded was distinct. Zhao Kuang's Suicune, however, was out of the question. It had been so long since Yu had encountered it that he had almost forgotten it. As for Serena and Karuna, perhaps because they were both female trainers, their Pokémon's power was restrained. Without their commands, they would appear rather bland among the crowds of Pokémon. The strange power before him was different. It constantly radiated its immense power, like the brightest star in the darkness. It was as if afraid others wouldn't notice and underestimate it. Gurgle watching the strange power, pounding its chest like a leaf king, Yu swallowed hard, his head shrinking slightly. Strange power, stop it. Just come out. I know you're a lot like your master, getting excited by a fight. But you don't have to be this bad, do you? The Leaf King was constantly pounding his chest, using only 2 arms. You have 4. Are you even more of a Leaf King? Ziba, with a calm expression, looked at the Leaf King. No, strange power. With a look of indifference, his gaze turned directly to Yu. Hey, kid, I've already sent out all my Pokémon. Where's yours? Hurry, Ziba urged. Is it really that serious? Is it really that serious? Is it really that serious? Yu's face darkened, and he couldn't help complaining, as if he had no intention of sending out any Pokémon. Important things must be said 3 times. Isn't it just to deal with an experienced monster that I can easily deal with on the roadside? As for sending out this champion level 1, others say why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? You have an invincible machete. How can you be considered an experienced monster on the roadside? Your Pikachu can tie with Marilu? So stop dithering and hurry up. Do you think I'm stupid? My account is fine for now, but is it fun to look for trouble? Besides, I have to challenge the aromatherapy gym later. Pikachu is already useless after the battle just now. If I fight with you again, who will I send to challenge the aromatherapy gym later? Yu's eyes rolled and a plan came to his mind, and his mouth kept talking like a machine gun. In short, you're a wicked old man. Can't I see the little tricks you're up to, you? Ziba's face darkened, and he felt like his lungs were about to explode with rage. His finger trembled as he pointed at Yu. Well, after Yu's words, Ziba felt like a despicable villain. If he hadn't known better, he would have felt so ashamed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Huff, 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 his chest heaving violently, Ziba resisted the urge to rush forward and fight Yu again. He said angrily, "Are you going to fight or not?" No, Yu was very straightforward. He lowered his head to look at the Pikachu in his arms, as if ignoring Ziba. Ziba's expression changed rapidly. And finally he took a deep breath, calming his impulse. Humph. You Chinese have an ancient legend that when you draw sword, blood will be drawn. Now I have a Pokemon that must be victorious when it is sent out. You have to fight today even if you don't want to. Oh, you still want to force me to fight? What can you do if I don't fight? Anyway, in terms of fist and foot skills, we have no way to deal with each other. Looking at Yu's unyielding look on the opposite side, Ziba was also amused at this moment. Yu, I say, you are not scared by the real strength of the monster, right? Don't worry, when the time comes, no matter what level the Pokemon you send out is, I will let the monster suppress its strength to the same level. How about it? Gritting his teeth, as if afraid that Yu would refuse again, Ziba stretched out a finger and shook it, intending to use a big stick strategy towards Yu. And as long as you send your Pokemon to fight with my monster, if you capture a fighting-type Pokemon by then I will unconditionally help you train it. How about it? You know, I am the king of fighting-type, an expert in fighting attributes. Well, let me think about it. Hearing this benefit, Yu couldn't help but waver. You know, as Ziba said, he's an expert in fighting-type Pokemon. Not only in his own region, but in the entire island nation, his reputation is one of the best. How many people flock to him, trying every possible means, just to get Ziba's help training their fighting-type Pokemon. And if a trainer specializing in fighting-type Pokemon, not to mention having Ziba train them, even just a few pointers from Ziba would benefit them immensely. Looking at Yu, lost in thought, looking undecided, Ziba remained expressionless. In his heart, he was thinking fiercely, humph. Let you agree first, then I'll see how I'll give you a good beating. You actually want benefits from me. This kid really needs to be dealt with. Thinking of this, Ziba urged Yu impatiently, hey. What have you thought about? Hurry up. Aren't you still in a hurry to challenge Miss Maxio at the aromatherapy gym? Okay, isn't it just a Pokemon battle? Who's afraid of who? A turtle is afraid of a hammer. But let me make it clear in advance, I didn't agree because I was tempted by your conditions, and I didn't refuse just now because I was afraid of you. I just wanted to continue the battle because the game between Pikachu and Riolu was still tied. Yu's face was serious, and his eyes were full of sincerity. Okay, whatever you say is what it is. Ziba's mouth twitched. If he didn't know who Yu was, he would have almost believed it. Chapter 344 4 Elements Fist. Haha, if that's the case, Suicune has decided to be yours. Go and have a good fight with Carrie. Yu pulled a light blue Pokeball from his belt and, without a second thought, tossed it into the arena. Bang! With a familiar flash of red light, Suicune's majestic and domineering figure, imbued with the aura of a legendary beast, appeared on the field. The streamers fluttering in the dust stirred by the breeze made it look even more strikingly handsome. However, a sudden, grumbling sound from Ziba shattered the mood. Wow. Shit. This is the legendary Suicune. Suicune, one of the 3 sacred beasts of the Phoenix King, according to legend in Chengdu, Ziba shouted, his face filled with uncertainty, his eyes widening. Yu observed Ziba's reaction, seemingly indifferent. Actually, it wasn't Shiba's fault. This was everyone's normal reaction when seeing a legendary beast. If it weren't for Yu's surprise, it would have been Yu's turn. However, Yu underestimated Shiba's current turmoil. As one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Kanto region, Shiba was naturally familiar with the legendary beasts of the neighboring Chengdu region. His astonishment was all the more apparent because he knew them well. Just how long had Yu been traveling? He'd already captured a legendary beast. Although this Suicune looked only at the level of a quasi-king, it couldn't stand up to the potential and talent of others. Imagine this, other Pokémon sometimes struggle a lifetime to reach a level of power, while Suicune can catch up, or even surpass it, with just a little effort or a short period of time. How could this not drive the other Pokémon crazy? But there was nothing they could do. Who could blame them for being lucky? Legendary beasts, or Pokémon, are born with natural talent. Perhaps it's just like people, genius always inspires envy and jealousy. Shiba was worthy of being one of Kanto's 4 heavenly kings, the king of fighting. After his initial moment of shock and surprise, he quickly recovered, his mindset adjusted remarkably quickly. Haha, isn't it just a divine beast? Isn't it just Suicune? What's so great about it? After all these years, as the king of fighting, I've seen all sorts of Pokémon in all sorts of situations. Besides, even if a Pokémon is powerful, it's useless if the trainer isn't competent. Shiba laughed dryly, comforting himself mentally. Perhaps because of what he'd said before, Shiba now viewed Yu and Suicune as equals. Think I'm incompetent and will only hinder Suicune? Then you try it. Suicune, use water cannon to help the monster get rid of the cold. Yu was furious that someone had dared to say his commanding skills weren't good enough. With a decisive wave of his hand, he issued an order. Haha, can't you hold back so soon? But since your Suicune is a divine beast, I'll allow my Suicune's power to be a level higher than yours, Hiba muttered, seemingly to himself, but also to Yu. Without waiting for Yu's response, Hiba's resolve was already made. Yu was immediately annoyed by Hiba's attitude and shouted, "Hey, who gave you permission to make such a whim?" Ignoring Yu's shouting, Hiba's lips curled into a wicked smile. "You have a saying in your country, don't reciprocate, starting with such a feast. We can't fall behind in Suicune either." Use the 4 elemental fists, Suicune unleashed a water cannon, aiming directly at the Suicune. This time, without the usual leeway, Suicune used all his strength. The opposing Suicune's power felt far too dangerous to Suicune, and it wasn't even on the same level as the one he'd fought the previous night. If this monster weren't imbued with the power of a divine beast, it would have been utterly defeated the moment it entered the fray. Monster power facing Suicune's all-out attack, Monster's 4 arms pounded against his sturdy chest once more. Then, his gaze fixed, unflinching, on the approaching water cannon. His lips curved in excitement, like his master's, and his already red eyes grew even redder upon closer inspection. The next moment, something unexpected unfolded for Yu, a scene he would never forget. Monster's 4 arms tensed, ready for battle. 4 different colored lights emanated from his fists, white, blue, yellow, and red. Following these 4 lights, 4 elemental phenomena, each corresponding to their respective colors, followed the approaching water cannon. As previously mentioned, Guili didn't retreat, but instead advanced, his 4 fists raised high, ready to strike at any moment. It was getting closer, closer. The water cannon flew at an incredibly fast speed, and in a matter of moments, it was already reaching Guili's position. Even before reaching full close range, Guili could already feel the intimidating force emanating from the water cannon. However, despite the water cannon's immense power, Guili seemed to be completely oblivious. Among his 4 raised arms, one fist, shimmering with a blue glow and surrounded by ice crystals, swung directly at the water cannon, which was like a flying cannonball. Wow, Yu was completely stunned by what he saw next, and his stunned mouth subconsciously let out a cry of surprise. The moment he realized what was happening, he jumped up and down excitedly, pointing at Shiba. Is this cheating? How can this be? This is really unfair. On the battlefield, the water cannon that was originally so powerful, at this moment of contact with a fist of the strange force, immediately turned into a large crystal icicle. In the early morning sunlight, it is so sparkling and dazzling. But this scene seems so dazzling to Yu, and a little frightening. As the saying goes, the earth will not stop turning because of the absence of someone. Regardless of Yu and Suicune, who are now a little stunned, the strange force's attack continues as usual. While one arm blocked the huge icicle, the other arm of the strange force also began to exert force. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, Resistance. On the battlefield, Guili's fist, glowing blue, was like a stone sculpture, firmly holding the icicle. He swung his other arm, a fist brimming with white light, and slammed it fiercely. Crack, crack, a series of emerald sounds echoed. Spiderweb-like cracks began to spread across the massive icicle, soon spreading across the entire structure. Before Suicune could recover from the continuous, unnoticed sound, the entire icicle had shattered into several pieces from Guili's punch. Speckles of ice crystals fell onto the battlefield, illuminating the battlefield in the early morning sunlight like a shower of diamonds. The purchase wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was Guili's quick vision. He quickly selected several sharp pieces of ice and, using the force of his fist, hurled them at Suicune in one go. Swish, swish, swish. The ice, piercing the air with a series of crackling sounds, flew through the air. The ice flew by at a rapid speed, showing no signs of shattering or exploding from the transmitted force. This revealed the terrifying degree to which this incredibly powerful creature, Shiba, had mastered his own power. Nanny. Suicune, stop, dazed. Get out of the way. Use Shadow Clone. Fortunately, Yu had recovered quickly, and upon witnessing the crucial moment, he shouted out. Sui. After Yu's warning, Suicune quickly reacted, but the ice's speed was no match. Just as the ice was about to touch Suicune, Shadow Clone decisively launched, spreading out in a series of shadow clones. The ice finally made contact with Suicune, but without the expected screams or the muffled thud of ice hitting flesh. The ice cubes pierced through Suicune's body like air, lodging firmly in the battlefield behind him like hidden weapons. Then, Suicune's figure vanished like foam, leaving behind his true form. Phew. That was a close call. I almost missed it. Yu breathed a sigh of relief, but before he could fully relax, his nerves flared up again. Suddenly, a figure with strange strength had silently approached Suicune. Two of its four arms, each emitting fists gleaming yellow and red, seemed poised to strike. With a silent apprehension, Yu issued another command. Suicune, use Shadow Clone once more. If that doesn't work, you may use Hold. A fist glowing red was encircled by a damp flame. Another fist, shrouded in yellow light, was pulsing with tiny strands of lightning. Entering the room, he felt a moment of majestic power, like a deity descending from heaven. He truly possessed lightning in his left hand and flames in his right. Holy crap! He's so cool. Even in the tense atmosphere, Yu couldn't help but curse. A gleam of brilliance shone in his eyes, and he practically drooled at the sight of the strange force. If Suicune knew his master's inner thoughts right now, he'd probably strike. But there was no time for distraction. The strange force had already taken possession of him. His fist, shrouded in flames, lashed out repeatedly at the shadowy forms of the water army, creating empty spaces wherever he passed. To locate Suicune's true form, the strange force resorted to elimination. Finally, the shadowy forms gradually dwindled, leaving Suicune's true form with nowhere to hide, completely exposed to the strange force's actions. At this moment, he decisively swung his lightning-wrapped fist, aiming directly at Suicune's face. If this group were to strike, the constant lightning and the overwhelming power they emanated would likely render the Navy, even if not completely incapacitated, semi-incapable. This wasn't about the difference between legendary Pokémon and ordinary Pokémon. It was simply a matter of stat restraint, because these Pokémon were using Thunder Fists. That's right. Yu recognized the move used by Guili from the start, and even knew what Shiba called the four elemental fists. Lightning danced on the fist, and it was about to strike Suicune, but there was no time to dodge. But the fist made no progress the next moment, as a turquoise hemispherical protective shield had seemingly appeared, enveloping Suicune, effectively protecting him. Even so, Yu could still faintly hear the crackling sound of Guili's thunder fist striking the energy shield of Guardian. After all, in theory, Guardian provides 100% defense the first time it's used, but that also depends on the level difference between the two Pokémon. Although Shiba had previously said to let his super strength suppress his own strength proved difficult to contain. After all, it was his own physical strength. While the result was somewhat unexpected for Yu, it wasn't much of a difference. Suicune ultimately neutralized Suicune's 4-element punches one by one. Seeing his super powerful 4-element punches blocked by Suicune, Shiba, far from being the least bit annoyed, let out a hearty laugh. How is it, Yu? Was it thrilling? Do you want more? Is the full 4-element super strength punch enough? It's super. It's just a combination of explosion punch, flame punch, lightning punch, and freeze punch? It's just because you have more super powerful arms, right? And you gave it such a powerful name. Why didn't you just call it explosion, fire, ice, and thunder punch? It's more accessible and straightforward. Yu looked unfazed, even wearing a carefree smile, and even complaining. There was no trace of his earlier loss of composure. Hey. Exploding Fire Ice Thunder Fist? That's a good name you picked. Worth considering. After hearing Yu's words, Ziba didn't show the slightest dissatisfaction Yu had expected. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully, a look of caution that made Yu's teeth ache. But don't be fooled by Yu's outwardly relaxed tone. In reality, the truth was just as he had lost his composure earlier. Even after learning some of the details, Yu still felt uneasy. Chapter 346 Knowledge. Unlike other students in school, who returned their teacher's knowledge after a period of time, Yu had spent the previous few years studying Pokémon with Professor Oak, and those years weren't in vain. Even the questions he asked the professors he visited during his time with Professor Oak were genuine. Although Yu didn't possess a so-called Alliance doctorate, he could still serve as Professor Oak's assistant, or even take the temporary Pokémon doctor's exam. It's well known that a Pokémon with exceptional strength, like Strix, possesses a sturdy body and 4 arms, but it can't perform delicate tasks. Its thinking speed struggles to keep up with its physical speed. This explains why Strix, while capable of moving rocks and doing manual labor on a construction site, can't do 2 things simultaneously. It's the type of person who's simple-minded but strong-armed. No, for Strix, it should be simple-minded, with 6 strong-armed limbs. All of this explains why Strix, who should have 6 limbs with extreme uncoordination, can now perform a single skill with just 1 arm. Moreover, the fighting type is extremely diverse, with most skills focused on the hands and feet, including flying knee strikes, downward kicks, and other foot-based skills. If the strange strength could be used on the legs, and such leg skills were unleashed, Yu shuddered at the thought. Even tentacle monsters aren't as terrifying as you, okay? How's that? A combo of flame punch, freeze punch, lightning punch, and explosion punch. Pretty luxurious and enjoyable, isn't it? Shiba grinned. Unsurprisingly, Yu could discern the moves used by the strange strength. What kind of enjoyment? Where's the agreed-upon level fight? Aren't these all the strange strength's hidden secrets? Revealing them so early, aren't you afraid that publicity will hurt your chances in the upcoming King of Kings challenge? Yu was furious, but his expression didn't relax at all, remaining tense. Oh, that's rare. You actually care about me? Shiba was stunned. His rough face showed no sign of panic at having his trump card revealed. He looked at Yu with a teasing expression. But don't worry about this. I'm not really afraid of it being exposed. If I were to hide it because of something, how could I still be the fighting king? At this moment, Shiba appeared extremely confident. The sunlight shone on his face, and his row of white teeth gleamed in the morning light. Looking at Shiba across from him, who seemed to be bathed in holy light, but seemed extremely narcissistic, Yu's brows almost knitted together. Never mind. Strike first and you'll suffer the consequences. Since water bubbles are useless against super strength, then Suicune's use of blizzard, no, should I say, supernatural power, oh. You're not going to fight me head-on, you're going to take advantage of the attribute restrained. Shiba reacted quickly seeing through Yu's hidden agenda. But he remained unfazed. He squatted into a horse stance, punching the air in front of him. In that case, we can't afford to give Yu a hard time. Strange Power unleashed a 4-hit Thunderbolt Fist attack. Superpowers, as expected, were bugs. The supernatural power successfully struck Strange Power as it raced towards Suicune. However, this supernatural power, which had a countering effect on Suicune, seemed to have no effect at all on Strange Power. It only caused Strange Power to pause slightly as it focused forward, without even a frown. Oh my god. Shiba, are you sure you've suppressed Strange Power? It shouldn't be like this, right? Even a high-ranking fighting type should at least show some resistance when facing supernatural power. But this, Yu glanced back and forth between Shiba and Strange Power with a look of disbelief. Isn't that nonsense? Do I look like that kind of person? A real man, a man who sticks to his words. Don't you think so? Weird Power, Ziba asked without any intention of distracting Weird Power, who was launching an attack. Weird Power, the fists on the forearms were wrapped with lightning at this moment, and arcs of electricity danced on them. Weird Power didn't feel nervous at all about facing a mythical beast, and after Sybil's question, he even called out to Ziba a few times while running to show his response. It really proves the old saying, the one with strength is the boss. Looking at Weird Power, who almost ignored his mythical beast Suicune, Yu's face looked very ugly, but he couldn't get angry. Seeing that the distance between Guili and Suicune was getting closer and closer, Yu still didn't intend to sit still and wait for death. Suicune, use Shadow Clone again, then use Water Cannon on the ground. I won't give you a chance. Guili, let this descendant of the divine beast see your strength. Even if it's suppressed, it's still the most powerful. As soon as Ziba finished speaking, Guili suddenly accelerated. Before Suicune could react, it was already in front of it. Fortunately, Suicune had already used the Shadow Clone skill before this. How could Ming Qiang have escaped again? You can escape the first day, but can you escape the 15th day? As if seeing through Yu's thoughts, Ziba's words rang out the moment Yu's thoughts emerged. With a silent feeling of foreboding, Yu quickly looked over. He saw that Guili had fully utilized his ability to crush the young master with random punches. He was unconcerned with the lightning glow fists, showing no remorse, showing no awareness of the fact that 4 punches could not defeat a large group. Wherever his lightning fist struck, a shadow clone would dissipate into thin air. If one were to look down from the sky, one would see that surrounded by a group of Suicune, Guili was like a spinning top, its attack ring still brimming with lightning. The surrounding Suicune shadow clones were rapidly decreasing. Boom! In just a few breaths, only Guili and the real Suicune remained on the battlefield. Very well, this is the force. Yu and Suicune, stop struggling. Just stand still and let Guili finish this battle. Shiba pressed his knuckles with both hands, making a crackling sound like frying beans, looking confident of victory. Really? Don't be too happy. Even if I lose, I won't let you off easy. If you have the time, you should just look around. Chapter 347 A Showdown. What? Yu's words startled Ziba, and his knuckle cracking subconsciously paused. His gaze had already followed Yu's warning, darting towards the sturdy figure of Guili in the battlefield. How could this happen? When did it start? Could it be, he saw that the battlefield, surrounding Guili's position, had become damp and muddy for some unknown time. While not as extreme as the swamp, judging by Guili's footprints, the mud was still quite deep and difficult to navigate. How you didn't expect that, did you? Since neither the weather nor I have the advantage, we'll have to change the terrain ourselves. Using Suicune's water cannon, we'll make the battlefield damp. While it won't cover the entire battlefield, it'll be enough for Guili's position. Yu couldn't help but smile smugly, secretly praising his own cleverness. Just as he'd said before, even though he knew his Suicune would lose, Yu had no intention of letting him off easy and was determined to create some trouble for him. Haha, what a calculated strategy. Using the shadow clones from before to attract Suicune's attention should also help buy time. Then, Suicune can use this time to change your so-called geographical advantage. Ziba immediately analyzed the situation and then smiled. You really have been scheming me again. I'm starting to wonder what kind of Pokemon battles you've experienced during your travels. You're so calculating. If I didn't have the power to crush you, I wouldn't have gotten any benefit, huh? I heard you, the power to crush me. Doesn't this mean that Suicune hasn't been suppressing me from the beginning? Otherwise, why would my previous magical power have had such little effect on Suicune? Yu's eyes lit up, and he quickly grasped the information revealed in Ziba's words. Ziba was choked by Yu, And then he laughed out loud, shaking his head helplessly. What a cunning and careful kid. I've said that the strength of Guili has been suppressed. But don't forget, I am the fighting king. The strong physique that Guili has trained can never be suppressed. If I tell you that Guili has suppressed the strength from the beginning, and is only using the strength of the body to fight, I wonder if you believe it? But even if you don't believe it, then I can't do anything about it. This time Ziba was very patient, as if he didn't care at all about the terrain that was already unfavorable to his Guili. After seeing Yi Yu still listening to what he said, he continued, after all, from my observation, although your Suicune belongs to the category of divine beasts, he should have suffered a lot, or even lost, although he didn't want to admit it. The fact was just as Ziba said, and he had to admit it. So, no matter how many schemes and tricks you employ, no matter how clever you are, they're all nothing in the face of absolute power. Move on, Thunder Fist. This time, facing Shiba's sudden change of heart, Yi Yu reacted swiftly, issuing the order immediately. Suicune, use Blizzard. While I agree that all schemes and tricks are nothing in the face of absolute power, there are exceptions. Don't be too overconfident. Yi Yu's lips curled up involuntarily with confidence. What are you up to again, kid? Shiba suddenly became alert. It wasn't that he was afraid of Yi Yu, but rather that Yi Yu had made him a bit overly sensitive. Various tactics were constantly being employed. If it weren't for his strength, he would have been completely defeated by now. Superpower, quick fights, quick decisions. Come on, Shiba said, even speaking English. Superpower responding to Shiba, Superpower took a leap and rushed towards Suicune again. Because of the brief delay, Suicune and Guili had once again widened the gap. However, the terrain advantage Suicune had created soon began to play out to some extent. Zijian faced muddy ground, but Suicune treaded it with ease, while Guili, now like a farmer in the fields, felt seamlessly at home, especially with his muscular build. Yi Yu nodded in satisfaction. Her plan was proceeding as planned. While she didn't expect to win, she wanted to try guerrilla tactics. In particular, perhaps due to genetics, every Suicune possessed the ability to purify sewage. This subconsciously proved that, regardless of the environment, Suicune could almost walk smoothly as long as they were near water. Otherwise, where would the incarnation of the North Wind come from? The enemy advances, we retreat. This tactic was fully utilized by Suicune at this moment. Furthermore, the ground was already somewhat damp, and Suicune's blizzard made the situation even worse. Despite his formidable physique, Guili subconsciously shuddered. I have to say that Suicune's ability to hold out this long is truly impressive. But since you want to play, Guili and I will play along to the end. For the first time since then, Shiba's face finally showed a rare seriousness. Guili uses Fire Fists and Lightning Fists. Fire Fists are used to clear the way, and Lightning Fists are used for attack and defense. His arms, previously engulfed in lightning, were instantly engulfed in flames as Shiba launched his attack, creating a battle stance of fire above and lightning below. Facing the icy road surface, Guili would immediately unleash his Fire Fists, melting it and breaking down the water molecules within. And every time, Suicune would seize the opportunity to attack, as if possessing a second mind, and Guili would repeatedly block his Lightning Fists. The effect was immediate, completely shattering Yi Yu's strategy. Suicune was once again in a passive position, his entire body forced into a corner by the strange force, the kind where he could only attack and not retreat. Haha. We've finally waited for this moment. Yi Yu, your clever tricks must have run out, right? Let's fight it out like men. This will be a decisive victory. Chapter 348 Semi-finished product. Come on. Victory's impossible, but won't that just mean losing your ability to fight? I believe in Suicune. It seemed as if, just as Hiba had said, there was no other way out. It also seemed as if he understood that retreat was inevitable. Yi Yu's eyes gradually hardened, a look of desperate determination. At the same time, as if sensing his master's thoughts and the crisis of the situation, Suicune's expression gradually shifted to one of fearless determination. Ferocity filled his eyes. The soothing aura of a gentle breeze vanished silently, replaced by the savage and violent nature of those Pokémon, a sense of choosing their prey. At this moment, a tacit understanding quietly grew between the man and the pet. The same gaze, the same thoughts, and even more so, the same aura and momentum. What's going on here? Are we going to pull off another stunt? We just wanted to have a fair, honest Pokémon battle, But the plot has such twists and turns. Even novels wouldn't dare write it like that, Hiba grumbled, but inwardly, he was already fully prepared. Hiba wasn't disappointed. He didn't know if it was his tongue or if Yu was just too good at stirring things up. The next scene made his eyes widen, and his mouth twitched. It was said that the experts would crush the newbies, and the kings would crush the newbies, but why was it so difficult for him to pull it off against Yu? What had been a crushing victory had been forced upon him, into a situation on the verge of collapse, with a possibility of a reversal at any moment. If Karen was here, she wouldn't be surprised, because the change in Suicune was exactly the same as the one Professor Oak had told Professor Britanno about, the incomplete form of bond evolution. At this moment, Suicune was enveloped in a current of water, his vague form becoming more distinct than the last time. Yu, what have you come up with? What's going on with Suicune? Shiba wasn't rushing to attack and end the battle. Instead, he observed Suicune with interest. But before Yu could say anything, Shiba preempted him, letting out a tisk-tisk of exclamation, seemingly amusing himself with his own questions. I hear there's legends of mega evolutions in the Kalos region. Could your Suicune situation be a mega evolution? Although I haven't encountered that kind of mega evolution much, it's about that time before we met you. Kona, and I went to the Sala Gym in Sala City and sparred with Kakable's Mega Lucario. Shiba paused, glancing at Yu, who was listening curiously, and at Suicune, who was warily enveloped in the water in the battle arena. He continued, I can only say that Mega Evolved Pokemon truly increase in power. After Mega Evolving, Kakaban's Lucario actually possessed the strength to battle my Zavalin. And most importantly, after the Mega Evolved Lucario's glow faded, I saw its full form revealed. Unlike you, Suicune, who's so secretive. You really think you're a grown-up, what? Yu thought inwardly, surprised after hearing the information revealed by Shiba. Although he had received a battle badge, it was only thanks to Kakaban's recognition. In reality, he was still defeated by Kakaban and Mega Lucario. And the Zavalin that Shiba had mentioned earlier was one of Shiba's 6 main Pokemon. Its power was only slightly inferior to superpower, but Kakaban's Mega Lucario was already capable of fighting it. This not only showed that Kakaban was holding back against him, but also demonstrated the power of Pokemon after Mega Evolution. And while Mega Evolution was a rumor only in Kalos, there were actually quite a few trainers who could Mega Evolve their Pokemon. Thinking of this, Yu's heart burned with excitement. If his Suicune truly Mega Evolved, he almost couldn't even imagine it. It was already a legendary beast, and with Mega Evolution, it would have become a being of such incredible power that it could completely overwhelm Shiba. Just thinking about it makes my blood boil, it's so exciting. Wow. Hey, why are you so excited? It's just a Mega Evolution, right? I don't think you understood what I said earlier. A Lucario after Kakable Mega Evolves would only be strong enough to fight my Zavalin, Shiba began to emphasize, his expression serious. Yu choked, and the strange laughter in his heart died abruptly. It really felt like a bucket of cold water was poured down on a June day, chilling him to the bone, didn't it? It seemed like he should really be happy. His Suicune's current situation wasn't clear yet, and whether it would achieve the coveted Mega Evolution was still a mystery. No, it looked like he'd have to find time to talk to Professor Britanno as soon as he finished his recent tasks. Having made up his mind, Yu's thoughts returned to Pokemon battles. It was incredible how the power and awe-inspiring Suicune exuded in this state was already at the level of a Celestial King. This meant his current strength was on the same level as the monster currently suppressing him. As if realizing this, Ziba's mouth twitched violently, and he suddenly regretted his own bragging. It would have been better to just get this over with, or even use his immense strength to crush Yu, torment him, and bully him. He was really screwing himself. It seemed he really needed to stay away from that brat from now on. His blood was incredibly contagious, and if he wasn't careful, he might get carried away again. Alice. There's nothing I can do. I have to bear the consequences of my own actions, even if it means breaking my teeth, he sighed again. Although Shiba felt a hint of regret in his heart, he had no intention of asking strange power to suppress his strength. After all, a real man's word is as good as nails. Even if you have a Mega Evolution, so what? I've fought Mega Evolved Pokemon before. And you're an incomplete, half-baked Pokemon. Strange power uses Lightning Punch and Freeze Punch. Chapter 349 Revenge. What? Say it again. I think you're jealous that your super strength can't Mega Evolve. A semi-finished product, though? It still boosts your strength. There was no sense of battle tension at all. Hearing the hint of jealousy in Ziba's words, Yu retorted with disdain. Yo. I'm jealous of a semi-finished product like yours. Hurry up, super strength. Show that brat that even if he's a divine beast, even if he's capable of mega evolving, he's still just a semi-finished product and will be defeated by you. Ziba urged super strength to attack quickly, ending this battle in a spectacular way. Then he could go back to sleep in. Nothing good ever happened with Yu. He'd even gotten up so early to make breakfast with him, and then engaged in exhausting hand-to-hand combat. Suicune, use White Mist, then Shadow Clone to break through. Without further ado, Yu entered the fray. Before Guili's lightning charged, icy fists could crackle through the air. Suicune decisively unleashed his escape skill, no, more like his life-saving skill, White Mist. Suddenly, Guili felt a vast expanse of white before his eyes, and he instinctively restrained the force of his 4 outstretched fists. He felt only a gentle breeze sweep through him, and his lightning fist seemed to touch something, but the impact was instantly gone. In that moment, Yu felt as if his heart and Suicune's had become one, each sensing the other's emotional fluctuations, even their subtle thoughts. The scene hadn't been thrilling at all. Though Suicune had used White Mist to obscure his vision, Guili's fists were no pushovers. With a whistling wind, he drew on his battle instincts, honed through countless battles, to strike in the direction Suicune was attempting to escape. Thanks to the cover of the White Mist and his nimble form, Suicune managed to dodge the attack. However, the hair on the left side of his back had a faint smell of burning. Because he was now in a mysterious connection with Suicune, Yu could sense it clearly. Think these little tricks can trap the strange force? Disperse this obstructing white mist. Thunder Force. A single roar was heard from within the mist, and then, like a hairdryer, the fog that had been gathering in the area began to dissipate. Oh my god. What kind of monsters are you training, Shiba? Is this a hand blade? The hand blades wielded by 4 arms are like rapidly spinning electric fans. Yu activated his spray gun mode once again. Is that surprising? There's more to come. The strange force is using the destruction death ray. Almost instantly, the strange force launched a column of orange energy towards Suicune. Don't unleash your ultimate right away? I'll be scared. Yu let out a sly smile as he watched the approaching destruction ray. Similarly, Suicune, who shared a special bond with Yu, seemed to be influenced by his master, showing no sign of nervousness or panic at the overwhelming pressure of the destruction ray. Something strange. You're stirring things up again. Can't we just have a proper fight? Why is a fair fight so hard? Why resort to tactics and schemes? Isn't there a clash of forces? In the blink of an eye, a series of thoughts raced through Shiba's mind. Closer, despite a confident smile, Yuyu's gaze remained fixed on the approaching destruction ray, whispering softly to himself. Now, Suicune, use Mirror Reflect. The instant Yu gave the command, Mirror Reflect was unleashed almost instantly by Suicune. Suddenly, a colorful, mirror-like piece of glass suddenly appeared between the destruction ray and Suicune. And even this thin, mirror-like reflection, facing the destruction ray's attack like a cannonball, suddenly seemed to have transformed into super thick bulletproof glass, directly withstanding the destruction ray's attack. Furthermore, while doing so, the destruction time that was originally hurtling towards Suicune actually seemed to be rebounding back. Slapping his forehead, Shiba couldn't tell what expression crossed his face. Sure enough, he was stirring up trouble again. But since you like stirring up trouble so much, I'll have to keep you company until the end. Let's see who is the true troublemaker, Shiba shouted in anger, but he didn't forget to give the order, use retaliation, super strength, trouble. This is trouble. Are you kidding? Yuyu's heart was filled with alarm. Hearing Shiba's order for the so-called retaliation skill, a sense of foreboding settled over Yu. Retaliation, as the name suggests. After being attacked by an opponent's skill, the user inflicts damage. If they can withstand another attack, they can return with double the damage in the following turn. This truly inflicts damage on both the opponent and the user. Looking at the fierce power of the destruction ray just now, could it be that the reflection from the mirror has not diminished its strength and momentum, but has actually increased it as it retaliates? Looking at the tense expression on Shiba's face, he must have known the true power of his own supernatural destruction ray. But he dared to do it. Besides being a risky move, he also showed great courage. the courage of a fighting master. No, we can't just sit there and wait for death. We must prepare for a rainy day. Suicune cast his freezing ray around them, creating a wall of ice. Hurry and take advantage of this moment. We'll block as many attacks as we can. Suicune obediently and quickly constructed a wall of ice across the battlefield. At the same time, the destructive death ray, reflecting off the mirror, successfully struck Guili. Enduring the pain, Guili unleashed his revenge skill, and then the skill was activated. The crimson in Guili's eyes grew even more piercing and dazzling. Each step he took carried a powerful deterrent. His feet sprinted across the battlefield, like the beating of a war drum, emitting a muffled thud. Chapter 350, Suicune is abused. Stop it, stop it. I must stop it, Yu prayed silently in his heart. Although he had already had Suicune use his mobile beam to create a defensive ice wall, seeing the Hulk-like momentum of the tyrant, he was completely unsure. If he could withstand this wave, completely overcome it, then the rest of the battle would be completely reversed. After all, the tyrant had to withstand the destructive death ray caused by the combination of time destruction and mirror reflection. Therefore, if Suicune could really withstand it, the outcome of the battle would be very uncertain. After all, the power of the tyrant, with its suppressive power, was always limited. Will I have a chance to make a comeback? It all depends on this one move, Yu thought nervously. Under Yu's anxious gaze, the tyrant's figure had already reached the first line of defense, the ice wall constructed by the freezing beam. Crack crack under the tyrant's revenge skill, the ice wall blocking Suicune and the tyrant began to gradually give way. Crisp cracks echoed one after another, and cracks like a spiderweb spread across the ice wall. Slowly at first, it quickly crumbled. It seems the ice wall forged by the radiant light can't withstand it. If that's the case, Suicune, prepare your water cannons. Even if you know you'll lose, you can't just sit there and wait for death, Yu shouted. Crack, a cracking sound, even louder than the last, echoed, and several fists, like fists breaking the sound barrier, hurled themselves at Suicune. But before the fists could react, the water cannons condensed in Suicune's mouth had already been unleashed. Instantly, the fists, which had previously seemed to be bursting with momentum after breaking the sound barrier, received a major blow. The fists struck the water cannons with a force that lacked the gentleness of water, but instead, a fierce power that forced the forward-moving fists of the strange force to pause and even begin to slowly retreat. Yu silently thought, I think there's a way. He then cheered Suicune on. Come on, Suicune. Increase the power of your water cannon. Perhaps due to his special connection with Suicune, Yu could clearly sense Suicune exerting all his might. His eyes showed a solemn and determined expression, and the power of his water cannon was at its maximum. Interesting. Finally, we can go head to head. In a battle of strength, Tyranitar and I have never lost to anyone. Not even Yu or a divine beast. Shiba was filled with excitement. The situation was perfectly suited to his liking. Tyranitar, go ahead. Show your fighting type dignity. We don't need stat restraint. Use explosive punch. Tyranitar's eyes blazed with excitement and passion, inspired and influenced by his master. Tyranitar, without hesitation, retracted the lightning punch, which had been used to counter the attack, and instead unleashed the explosive punch, which had no stat advantage. At Shiba's command, the red, blue, and yellow energy emanating from Strange's fists vanished, and all four of his arms were enveloped in white light, as if he were wearing a special armor set. Strange then launched into a frenzied flurry of punches, facing the water cannon, no longer gentle but now fierce. Strange showed no sign of retreat, unleashing a continuous barrage of explosive punches. Before evolving into Strange's powerful form, Strange's punches were already incredibly fast, and after evolving, their speed became even more remarkable. Furthermore, Strange now possessed four arms. The four massive fists swung, leaving only a shadow. The water cannon, once powerful enough to impact with its sheer force, now had no suppressive effect. As Strange's explosive punches continued to lash out, a protective shield formed in front of Strange, preventing the water cannon from advancing even an inch. Instead, with each punch, Strange took a step, though it was small and even labored. But even with this effect, Suicune's water cannons were completely rendered ineffective by the continuous bursts of explosive punches from all four arms. As Yu and Suicune watched with trepidation, weird strength stalked towards Suicune. With a condescending attitude, he gazed down at Suicune, who was continuously firing water cannons with his mouth open, a cruel smile on his face. Then, he freed two of his forearms and launched a punch, one to the left and one to the right, towards Suicune's face. A successful strike would likely disfigure him. However, for Pokémon, disfigurement is invisible. After all, they are what they are. As Weird Strength's explosive punches pounded Suicune's body, Suicune felt a sharp pain, and his continuous water cannons ceased, sending him flying backwards. Yu, standing in the command area, felt the same pain as if he were himself. He felt a burning pain in his face and instinctively raised his hand to cover the painful area. He felt that if he were to receive a few more blows like that, even if he wasn't crippled, he'd likely suffer internal injuries. He had no confidence at all. How could the same situation happen again? Yu didn't have time to think. His explosive fist combo continued unabated. What on earth was going on? Was this the proverbial sit at home, and disaster strikes from the sky? But he wasn't even sitting at home, he was still diligently directing his Pokémon in battle. Yu, what's wrong with you? Even though Suicune is a legendary beast, you shouldn't feel the pain of Strike Force hitting you. You look so painful. And especially since Strike Force is hitting Suicune, why are you yelling? Don't you have some special fetish? Zib looked at Yu across from him with a strange look, as if you were having a seizure. What the hell is going on? And he's still making sarcastic remarks. Can't he see my condition? He didn't even come over to say hello, and he still had the nerve to stand there and make sarcastic remarks. Yu was so eager to rush over and kick Ziba. But because of the constant pain in his body, he kept moving around twice, but he was completely powerless. Hey, what's that look in your eyes? My dear, your divine beast Suicune. Can't bear to see him get beaten? Don't worry, in that case, let me set a precedent. After all, in future battles, the divine beast Suicune will inevitably get hurt, right? So there's no need to thank me. As long as the opponent has not lost his combat ability, keep hitting him with your super strength. Kill him with your skills. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.